Good evening. Thank all of you for being here today. Today is April 18th, 2023. Our thought for today is the strength of a team is each individual member. The strength of each member is the team. That's by Phil Jackson. I'm going to go ahead tonight and officially call this meeting to order tonight. I don't see my pastor tonight, so I'm going to ask Commissioner Mason, if you would lead us in our invocation tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let us all bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us back to this place one more time. We thank you for allowing us to come back and do the county business, God. We ask that as we move forward in doing the county business, God, that you would bring a form of unity, you will bring a form of respect and love and care so that we can help take this community to the next level. We thank you for all that you've done for us. We even thank you, God, for all that you are about to do for us. We give you all the kingdom, honor, and the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I'm going to ask, thank you, sir. I'm going to ask Commissioner Sanders if she would lead us in our pledge tonight. Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, we're going to have a couple of changes we want to make to the agenda. We want to add 18A. 18A, the city of Covington is asking the county to consider open container on the square. 18A. And also 20A. 20A, food trucks service in the county. 20A. With those changes, I seek a motion that we approve the agenda, please. Second. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Our pastor did make it tonight, sir. We did already open up, but if you want to come up and just say a couple of words and to the commissioners, you may. Mr. Pastor Baker. Yes, sir. Come on up and greet them. And I know you're new in the community. We just want to let everybody see a face. Pastor Baker is the pastor of the Pleasant View Baptist Church, and he just celebrated his 1-year anniversary. And then we had
Good evening. I do apologize for my tardiness. I was driving all the way from Duluth, Georgia.
It's okay, sir.
But I am indeed a pleasure to be a part of this county. Thank you, Commissioner Bain, for a great relationship we started so far. I haven't had a chance to meet a number of you, but I do look forward to meeting a number of all of you if I can. We're doing great things at The View, is what we call it. As he said, I've been there for just a year. I'm a native of Georgia, come through Decatur, Georgia, by way of Lithonia through Concord, Pike County, and now I'm in the great state of Covington. And so we're grateful to do kingdom business, and we're grateful for all of your assistance. And we'll continue to do the work, and any way we can partner with the community, we'll definitely continue to do those things.
Thank you so much. And again, I mean, you've been here a year, and you already is expanding your footprint of Pleasant View. So thank you for what you're doing for the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. God bless you. Next on the agenda is citizens' comments. This is an opportunity that we allow citizens to make comments about agenda topics only. At this time, agenda topics only. I know there's quite a few of you want to make comments about your taxes tonight. You will be able to do that at the second citizens' comments. But this particular comments is about agenda topics only. If you would, please state your name and your address for the record, please. You have 3 minutes to do so.
Archie Shepherd, down 169 British Drive. I'm concerned about Agenda 10. I'm hoping tonight that you all will make a good decision on picking the next county manager. Because the last yes man y'all picked, he did everything y'all wanted him to do and whatnot. But I hope y'all don't get another yes man this time. I hope y'all would pick the best candidate. And we seen the resume of each one. So we're hoping that y'all will take time to pick the right candidate tonight. Someone that have some kind of experience. Because we hoping y'all don't come back 6 months later and then have to change again. So I'm hoping that y'all will make the right decision tonight. I know it's flying over some heads because you already done made up the mind, but we expect more out of y'all than we've been getting. So I hope y'all make the right decision tonight.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to make comments about agenda topics only? Agenda topics only. Please state your name and your address for the record, please.
Barbara Morgan, 2158 East Street, Covington. Now that you have added an agenda item regarding the proposal from the City of Covington about an open container ordinance, I would like to speak in favor of that. I did last night at the Covington City Council meeting. I understand there is a difference, however, in all the successful ways that cities around the state have adopted this open can ordinance. It's been successful, it's been safe, but I understand there is a slight difference because the county owns the square. The city doesn't own the whole square. Nevertheless, I think it's a valid concept. I think it would be worth a trial, and I hope you will consider that. I believe there are considerations built into the ordinance that would make it safe. Certainly, it's got to be evaluated, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I think it's a valid try. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Agenda topics only. You have 3 minutes to do so.
Jennifer Hartman, 160 Allison Trail, Covington, Georgia. I'm actually also here to speak on the proposal for the City of Covington, which is, I guess, agenda item 18A. I am a resident of the county, but I actually own the Social Goat here in Covington on the square. I own several other properties down there as well, different types of businesses. I hope that you guys really consider the financial impact that it could create for our community. Each year I pay about $60,000 in sales tax to just the county. That's only the county's portion, not the whole sales tax portion. That's more along the lines of $120,000. So I mean, I think that this is a great opportunity for us to grow that number and to give back to the county, where hopefully you guys can put that back to us as citizens. I'm also not coming as a business owner, but I'm also coming just as a citizen who wants to bring my family downtown. I know that there are several concerns about safety, and you may not want your children around certain types of activities, but I can guarantee you that there's no difference in this trial period versus going out to eat into a restaurant where the table next to you is having a beer. These are not the type of people walking around the square that want to get intoxicated. From owning a restaurant for several years, I can tell you the people who want to get intoxicated are sitting at the bar pounding shots. They're not walking around the square having a big grand old time. So I'm going to use all my 3 minutes. I also want to tell you that we are losing community members to our local, to Monroe, because they do allow this. We're losing them also to McDonough. So a lot of people are telling me, hey, if you guys don't do this, we'll just go here to eat. I don't want to lose that in my business. I also own other businesses that would probably not survive if alcohol wasn't going to be able to be involved. And that's not people who go out and just get drunk. Axtown is one of them on the square that I own. They just are there to have a good time. We also lack entertainment on the square. So I would like for you guys to consider that. We want people to stay in our county, in our square, and spend their money here, not elsewhere. I don't want to fund Monroe. I don't want to fund McDonough, Loganville. I want to fund Covington and Newton County because that's where I live. So thank you very much. Oh, I have one more thing. My restaurant, the other restaurants on the square, we do offer a program called TIPS. So all of our employees are trained to determine whether or not people are intoxicated, how to deal with intoxicated people, and how to prevent over-serving. So they are very well trained on this. They know what to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Agenda topics only. You have 3 minutes to do so. Please state your name and your address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Elizabeth Darty, and I live at 4145 Floyd Street, Covington, Georgia. I also own 2 businesses on the square, and one of my businesses has been here for 15 years. The other one's been here for coming up on 2.5 years. One of them is an entertainment business, and the other one's just a retail store. And in the last couple of years, I've seen a real increase with the beautiful restaurants that we've added to the Covington Square, where patrons will go and walk around the square during their wait time. So all the restaurants are really good about giving you a little note or a ding on your phone to come back. But I think it would benefit not only the restaurants, but also the merchants if you were able to maybe, go ahead and grab a drink and take a walk around the square and do some shopping and then come back when your time is ready for your table. Those were some of the things that we kind of threw back and forth. As far as my entertainment business, I do own the Clock Tower Escape Room, and it's a game where you get a series of puzzles and clues to get out. And we have a lot of people that actually bring their own alcohol onto the square without any monitoring. So I think if we were able to take this 90-day period and utilize it as a kind of a call to freedom, it would allow people to, like she said, monitor the drinking on the square a little bit better. And if we were able to get the 90 days, I think it would also give us an opportunity to see if that's something that would bring residents to the square. We've got a new regime. They're trying to really get some good activities and different things going on the square, and I think if we were able to have an alcohol component, I think it would just kind of lighten the mood a little bit. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. As I do want to recognize our state senator, Ms. Tanya Anderson. Thank you for being here tonight. We're going to move on now. Ms. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Thelma Starnall. I live at 3163 Starmount Street. I'm opposed to people walking around the square drinking alcohol because I believe those are public sidewalks. So if you're going to let them walk around the square and drink on public sidewalk, then let them walk around town on every sidewalk and drink. Because if somebody have too much to drink, somebody get hurt and killed, who's going to be liable? All the money in the world won't bring a family member back. So I'm opposed to it, but I know y'all gonna do what y'all wanna do. So sometimes think about what the citizens want here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. Well, I don't know where I want to start. I think I'm going to start with number 12. And then I want to talk about the taxes too, but I'm going to start with number 12 on the agenda, and that's about the ARPA money.
Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
You can call me Good Citizen, Mr. Jackson, the Examiner reporter. You can call me whatever. It's not about me. It's about taxpayer money that the county is spending. So what I'm asking the county to do is give us an itemized on the website and reports how y'all breaking down this money, spending it. Okay, so whether you're giving it to charity, giving it big business, or giving it to the homeowner. Right now on item 12, you didn't approve that money going to some kind of senior citizen. What I'm asking you to do is break it down for the people. That money belongs to the people. We want to see how that money got spent. And then I want to tell you about the taxes, but we'll bring it back.
Thank you.
I ain't going to interrupt you. I'm going to let everybody else speak. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, guys. My name is Anthony Henderson, address 1011 Faircrest Walk, Covington, Georgia. I'm here to talk about item 17, about the Nelson Heights audit. So I think you guys may have already saw the audit. So I just want to kind of comment on some things that we saw. So some of the recommendations that they're referring for us to do, we thought that we had hired our tax accountant to resolve at least pretty much resolve a lot of the stuff that they had recommended. And so we're just asking for some more time for us to kind of get back with the tax accountant, also with the auditor, to confirm a lot of things that they said are missing. And so once we get all that resolved, I think everything will be straightened out. But in the meantime, guys, right now we have a county facility that you guys are not funding, so we're having a hard time as far as keeping utility things and stuff like that on. So if you guys can please take that into consideration, that it is a county facility. Right now, we're not receiving any funds to operate it, so just keep that in mind.
Thank you. And I do want to recognize, I didn't recognize City Councilor Henderson as well. Thank you. Guys, we're going to agenda topics only, please. You got 3 minutes to do so. Please state your name and your address for the record.
My name's
please.
Steve Springer. I live at 104 Green Street, Oxford, Georgia, right down off City Pond. I'm here tonight basically for the tax order, but I see this lighting number 18, almost $500,000, $430,516. I guess is approved through SPLOSH, which I understood the SPLOSH funds were for roads and improvements on infrastructure. I'm not objecting to improvements, but I feel that this is pretty extravagant, being that it's a complex that's used partially throughout the year, and with the draining of City Pond Road that's in the works, and the airplane manufacturing company that's moving in, that seems to be, nobody seems to know about it. I think it's a waste of money. It's going to go away. They're going to drain City Pond. The ball fields will go away eventually too. I don't understand how this money is being spent for that.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Thank you. Next is the chairman's report. I don't have anything to report tonight. Item number 7, old business.
Mr. Chairman, number 7 being old business, it's regarding Piedmont Newton Hospital is requesting approval of ARPA funds. This was tabled from the March 21st BOC meeting, and we do have Dr. Norris Little, the Chief Medical Officer, the Interim CEO is present to discuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Just a reminder, our request was a project for a 10-bed expansion. Currently, really since the pandemic, we've experienced significantly high volumes in the facility, resulting in overflow into the emergency department and inadequate bed capacity. We have the ability to create 10 additional beds, which would ease that congestion and improve our ability to care for the citizens of our community. The project in total cost is a $2.2 million project, and we were, again, seeking ARPA funding to assist with that. If you have any specific questions around that, I'm happy to answer those. I think I gave out some information at the last meeting related to the volumes that we've experienced in the last few years.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. The commissioners did ask me to get with the city of Covington and I did speak with the mayor, and I'm assuming that he spoke to his council, and they did, he did report back and said that they did not have any ARPA funds left. So the request is coming back before the board tonight for you guys to make a decision one way or another. Any questions, please? Commissioner Sanders.
This actually would be probably for finance, because I don't believe we even have $2.2 million anymore. We just approved for broadband in another area on last week. We don't know how much that's going to cost, and as we see on the agenda, there's been another request for ARPA funds, and as our director from our consultant, she instructed us not to touch that funding because we don't know how much their consulting services are going to be to run our programs. So that would be our issue. We don't really have $2 million anymore.
Let me, Ms. Brittany, if you would, I know you just walked in, but you have perfect time, and if you could come up, please. Do you know off the top of your head how much is remaining in the ARPA funds?
It's a little over 2 million. I can't think of right off the top of my head, but I think it's around 2.2, 2.3.
Yeah. So the issue, Mr. Chairman, is going to be, we don't know how much the invoice is going to be for the broadband once those residents come back with that invoice. Then we do have a request from senior services and some other requests. So as I stated, the consultant told us last week, when I asked the question specifically, I said, should we touch our surplus that we have sitting right there, the 2.2? She said no, because based on their contract, they were not given a task order to run our ARPA programs. So they are charging us for everything they do. They invoice us, we send an email, they answer a call, they come to a meeting. So we have no idea what our ending bill would be, because as we can see, the programs have been pushed back. They were supposed to start a little bit earlier in the year. So even the small business assistance has been pushed back to June. So we have no idea of how much this is going to cost us.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards and then Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Brittany's questions for you. So we don't have an exact amount available at this time, given the information that we're hearing tonight, right? I mean, the administration of the ARPA funds have not been accounted for, correct?
In the total budget that was presented, the administration piece from iParametrics was part of that.
Okay, so we don't know if there's going to be, so are the change orders going to cost us any more money? Or do we know of any change orders?
The contract was not to exceed $420,000. Current to date, I think there's around $170,000 in task orders that have been assigned. So there is some additional money to give them more task orders if we wish to do so.
Okay. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that this board allocate $1.75 million to Piedmont Newton Hospital for 10 additional beds, please.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been motioned. Hold on. I got you. Hold on one second. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Cowan. Discussion, Commissioner Henderson.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer up a substitute motion, and this is to ask Brittany, can we find another pool of money to get that 2 point million?
Yeah, is the question, can we get the additional funds beyond that?
No, I was requesting to the board, and I was asking that Ms. Brittany, if she could find another source of it too, of other funds. Maybe it come from our fund balance, some of that sort, in order to achieve that objective. I think the $2 million that we talking about spending from ARPA funding will really hurt a lot of people who are in need. And I don't want them to be more put out their homes, their utility bills can't be paid, their mortgage can't be paid because we don't have other funding in order to do that. So the substitute motion is there another source of monies that we can draw from to give the hospital, that money from, can it come from fund balance? Let's see.
No, I got you.
Let
No,
me
I got you.
let me make it more clear. I like to, my substitute motion is to see if that whatever the amount of money that he's requesting, 2.2 come from fund balance that we already have. I think it's about 36 million to go to the hospital for those 10 beds.
Is there a second? Let's get a second first, then you can. Thank you. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson that we direct our director to go back and look for other sources to provide this funding to Piedmont Newton, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Edwards. Commissioner Cowell, discussion.
Okay. Patrick, can we take money out of the fund balance to provide money to the hospital since we made that change a few years ago?
You can. We will have to create a contract to go with it, but it is an achievable goal.
I mean, but it's legal, right?
We can make
Okay.
it work if that's the decision the board makes.
Okay.
Now this is, again, Commissioner Henderson made the motion to direct the director to go and seek it. Now, he didn't say approve it. He just said go seek other sources of funding.
If I could clarify, we have about, if you correct me, Ms. Brittany, we have about $36 million in our fund balance. That's what I call it, it's the old term, fund balance. What's the exact number?
It's closer to 44 million.
Okay, 34 million. So I'm asking that we take what's needed for our hospital, where our citizens go to, and a heap of people who can't afford it go to the hospital, to create those 10 beds for our hospital, Piedmont Newton. And I don't think...
So you're amending the motion to approve it?
Yes.
Thank
we
you,
want
sir.
to approve that money to go to them.
Will you still second that motion to approve? No, not for the, Commissioner Henderson made a motion to approve that $2.2 million when Ms. Brittany finds it. Are you seconding that motion? I'll second that motion for discussion. Okay. All right. All right. Any more discussion? Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, okay, Brittany, we have the X amount in the fund balance, correct? So, take me back. How many? You have to, real simple terms for me, right? How many months is that in our fund balance?
We're right around 7 months.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Cowell.
I'm not opposed to a combination of using some of the ARPA funds and a draw out of the fund balance. If Brittany, if you're okay with that, whatever those numbers may be, I think you ought to pull half from ARPA and half from the fund balance if possible. I don't want to put the county in a bind based on some of the things that we've got coming up. We just talked a long time about a defined benefit plan, so that's going to be expensive. Can you work those? Can you talk that?
I would like to be able to be given the opportunity to look at other funding sources before we touch fund balance. Always say fund balance is the very last resort.
Correct.
So if we could, go in and look at our capital funds or our current budget for FY23, see where we may have brought in more revenues. My opinion would be to do that before we touch fund balance.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend that motion to what Ms. Brittany has just said, and also just want to make a comment, is that fund balance is for emergency. And what bigger or better emergency could we have than to create 10 more beds at our hospital? Just remember that when just the average person don't have any money, they can't turn them down. They'll take them in and see about them. And even my friends that went there, myself included. So we need to help our hospital in a way that we can for those 10 beds, while at the same time, we don't need to do away with our ARPA funding to continue to help our citizens who are in need of help. Thank you.
So Commissioner Henderson amended his motion. Are you amend your second? Commissioner Sanders.
I just want to make sure that we are paying attention to what we're doing, because when we've asked to use the fund balance for other things in the county, you all voted against it and said, no, we shouldn't be touching our fund balance. It only should be for certain types of emergencies. So when you open that door, this is going to be the example to say, we used it for this, and you cannot deny it. Well, we can deny it as a board, but it's going to be discriminatory. I just want to make sure that we understand what we're doing.
If you offer it up, I'll vote.
Hold on, guys. Commissioner Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with the majority of the board. I think we really should be cautious about utilizing the remaining of the ARPA funds that we have, because I believe that they can be utilized in some different ways. So I would really love the opportunity to give Brittany the opportunity to go back and find another source if it is outside of our fund balance, because I know for the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia says that we should have a minimum of 3 months of fund balance, and well, we've exceeded that. So we're doing great. We're in a great financial position. We want to stay in a great financial position. Prayerfully, we won't ever go through another pandemic in this particular lifetime. It may not be a pandemic. It may be something else where we may have to tap into those fund balance dollars as well. So I would really encourage the board to really move forward with allowing our finance director to go and find an additional resource of funds before we touch fund balance, before we touch ARPA. Allow her to find another stream of potential revenue that we can pull from, because we do want to help our hospitals, because it's very, very important. And so I want to encourage us to really take that into consideration, not touching fund balance or touching ARPA, but finding another resource that we can pull for before we look into those. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All in favor?
What are we voting on? Tell me what the motion is.
You done raised your hand. Oh, you done raised your hand there.
What is the motion? Which is get Brittany to go back?
Hold on, guys, hold on 1 second.
Okay.
You want to state the motion, Pat?
The motion was for the finance director to go back, identify alternative sources of revenue outside of ARPA if possible, and outside of fund balance if possible.
Okay.
Thank you. All in favor? Passed 5-0. Thank you. Guys, it's approximately 7:33. We're running just a little bit behind. It's time for zoning. Mr. Applewhite, if you would, please come on up. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Chairman and Board. We have 3 zoning items today. First, we have 2 rezoning cases and an ordinance. So the first case, it is REZ 23-000001. There is a companion case right behind it, REZ 23-000002. This is a request to rezone this parcel. The existing land use map is Parks, Recreation, Conservation. The current zoning is Office Institutional and General Commercial. And the proposed zoning tonight would be for agriculture just for 84.8659 acres of the total. And the total acreage is 114.36, so they're now rezoning the entire parcel. It is in the Yellow River watershed, and it's located at 1495 Access Road. Tax ID is 0043004F, and this is in District Commission 4. The current owner is Jayco Contracting Solutions. Our petitioner is Alan McCrae, and the representative is William Galloway. The Planning Commission voted to approve this recommended to approve this on March 28th at the Planning Commission meeting. And again, the applicant's intent is to rezone 84.8657 acres of the entire 114 plus acres in order to preserve and develop it into a wetlands mitigation bank. So they're not proposing to develop this parcel. It's actually going to be, they're proposing to downzone it to the A zoning so they can use it for wetlands mitigation, which is a kind of conservation. And again, we do have the specs on the site, the acreage, the current zoning, general commercial, office institutional, and most of the parcel right now is currently wetlands and floodplain, so it's really not developable or buildable in that sense. So based on the site plan that was submitted on March 3rd to Development Services, staff offers the following considerations. We have land use and density, and again, they're proposing to mitigate, use of wetlands as a wetlands, they're proposing to mitigate the wetlands and hence put it into conservation. And it does reflect the current future land use map of parks, recreation, and conservation, which is designated in the land use plan. And in conclusion, given the designation on the future land use as parks, recreation, and conservation, staff is of the opinion that the rezoning may be appropriate for the mitigation use in the area since the land is largely undevelopable. And we do have our recommended conditions. Should this petition be approved by the Board of Commissioners, it should be approved for A, agricultural, conditional, subject to the owner's agreement, to abide by the following enumerated conditions. And where these conditions conflict with the stipulations and offerings contained in the letter of intent, these conditions shall supersede unless specifically stipulated by the board. And we have 1, to the owner's agreement to restrict the use as follows. First, they'll need to, the parcel shall be used for wetlands mitigation and conservation only and not developed. B, the permits shall be obtained from USAs, that's U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and other applicable state and federal agencies. And a minor plat shall be submitted and reviewed by Development Services, and this will be to combine this parcel with the parcel in the next, in a companion case. So this is the location we're looking at here. The companion case is just right next door here, and we'll look at that next. So they're only looking to rezone the bottom half here where the star is. We have the current zoning, OI. The entire parcel is OI, and we have CG at the top here, general commercial. But again, we're just looking at this southern portion of the parcel. Here you can see future land use map. It's just parks, rec, and conservation. All this is basically floodplain here, which is going to be shown on the next. So this is the floodplain area here that is just being shown at the bottom there in the green. And then it's in the Yellow River watershed. And here we have the flood map. Wetlands in blue. Green is the floodplain, and the pink area is the 500-year flood. This is the proposed survey that they showed us, so eventually it will become one parcel at the bottom here with the exit, with the entrance or access road up here. And this is the concept plan that was submitted. This is a future land use amendment, so there are no recommendations at this time. However, should the board approve this, no, sorry, we're doing a rezoning out of flume, and I did go through the recommendations. Yeah, there's no flume for this one. So this is the end of the staff's presentation. If there are any questions for me, I'm here, or otherwise the applicant is here, and they do have a few slides to present as well.
Thank you. We're going to open it up now for the public hearing. The applicant and those that would like to speak in favor tonight, you have 10 minutes to do so. If you would, please come on up. Please state your name and your address for the record, please. The applicant and those that would like to speak in favor tonight.
Hey, members of the board, my name is Woody Galloway with Galloway Law Group. I'm here representing the applicant in this rezoning request. This is a pretty straightforward application. We're dealing with the southern side of property that is usable. The northern side is usable, the southern side is not. It's contained, virtually all of it is contained within the floodplain. The applicant intends to take this property and to assemble it and to take it into the Army Corps of Engineers, get it approved as a wetlands mitigation bank, and that is the the highest and best use for this property. It will not generate any traffic, won't generate any school children, and will accomplish a needed function as the number of credits out there is low now due to all the transportation improvements that have gone on, causing the price of mitigation credits to go up. This proposal is consistent with the Newton County 2028 Comprehensive Plan, which shows the property as a conservation focus area. The application, as staff has indicated to you, comes to you with a recommendation of approval from both the staff and the Planning Commission. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that y'all have with regard to this application.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak in favor tonight? Anyone else like to speak in favor tonight? That portion of our public hearing is closed. We also allow 10 minutes for those that would like to oppose tonight. You may come in this time. Please state your name and your address for the record, please. Would anyone like to oppose tonight? Would anyone like to oppose tonight? Ms. Applewhite, if you would, please come on back up. Commissioner Henderson.
Well, well, first of all, I just want to thank, I think, I'm not sure it was the gentleman just came up or somebody, but he called me and we had a lengthy discussion about this particular piece of property in District 4. And I can think of any better use of this property than mitigation property. And so I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I heard Ms. Applewhite, she said that Planning Commission all approved it.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Chairman, having said that, I'd like to make a motion that this property be approved with the staff recommendations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson that we approve this. It's been seconded by Commissioner Mason. Any discussions? All in favor? It passed 5-0. Thank you. Ms. Applewhite.
Thank you, Chairman. And again, the second case is the companion case. It is REZ 23-000002. And it will be companion to the first one that was just done, which is REZ 23-000001. This is also an existing land use map of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation. This one is zoned R2, single-family residential, office institutional, as well as general commercial. And the proposed zoning is agricultural. It is located in the Yellow River watershed, 1675 Access Road. And the parcel size in this case here is 70.37 acres total. They are requesting to rezone just 49.9599 acres. Tax ID is 0043003. This is also in Commissioner District 4. The owner is Chauncey Stacy. Petitioner is Alan McCrae, and the representative again is William Galloway. And this is similar to the last one. Just for a time, I won't read through every single thing unless there are questions from the board. But it's basically the same future land use. We have the zonings that are similar, and it is adjacent to the current parcel. And the objective is the same. Right, their intent is to preserve the 49.9599 acres, to preserve and develop it into a wetlands mitigation bank. And we have the information here on the subject site, the site plan analysis, and the land use density. And conclusion, given the designation of the future land use as Parks, Recreation, and Conservation, staff is of the opinion that a rezoning may be appropriate for the mitigation use in the area since the land is largely undevelopable. We have the same recommendations as previously for the companion case, which would be to, they will have to combine the two lots to make it one, so that's the minor plat. And the parcel is only going to be used for wetlands mitigation and conservation and not developed. And they have to obtain the relevant permits from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and any other applicable state and federal agencies. And this here, we see this is the locations on the other side. The companion case is over on this side just now, so we're on the other side now. And they're just doing the bottom half of the parcel. I don't have the line across there. And future land use map, Parks Rec. It's in the Yellow River. And of course, the wetlands covers this as well in the blue. So this is the survey submitted. Like I said, it's coming across both of the parcels. So they're only using the southern portions of each parcels in the acreages specified. And this is the concept plan of the area. And so these are the two parcels side by side, just to give you a better idea. And if there are any questions for staff, if not, if you'd like the applicant to come again, it is open for a public hearing.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Thank you. It's approximately 7:45. We're going to go ahead now and open it up for the applicant and those that would like to speak in favor tonight. You have 10 minutes to do so. Please state your name and your address for the record, please.
Woody Galloway, 4062 Peachtree Road, Atlanta, Georgia. Again, I am here representing the applicant in this request. I won't reiterate all my comments. They are the same. It's the adjacent parcel being used for the same purpose as a wetlands mitigation bank. We have enjoyed working with staff and look forward to working with the county with regard to this proposal. Be glad to answer any questions y'all have.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. That portion of our public hearing is closed. We also allow 10 minutes for those that would like to oppose tonight. You may come at this time. If you would, please state your name and your address for the record, please. If anyone would like to oppose tonight. Would anyone like to oppose tonight? Ms. Applewhite. Commissioner Henderson? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. C. I'd like to make I'd like to make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Can I get a second, please? It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you, guys. Ms. Applewhite.
Thank you, Chairman. Our final item this evening is a resolution. This is in addition to the County Code of Ordinances. It's a resolution of the Newton County Board of Commissioners creating an ordinance to establish regulations and guidelines regarding the permitting and operation of mobile and temporary food establishments within Newton County. And the purpose of this resolution is to add a new section to the Newton County Code of Ordinances, and it will become section 12-160. And Commissioners, in your packet, you do have a copy of the ordinance. It's about 5 pages. It's a very brief ordinance that was submitted for your review. And I'm just going to do a summary bullet points for that. And I think it's shifted. So just a brief summary of it. So any licenses or permits that are required by the Department of Public Health or Department of Agriculture, those will also be required, or by us, or they'll be required to present those. No mobile food vendor shall be located within 150 linear feet of the property line of a lot containing a single-family home or townhouse without a special event permit. No mobile food vendor shall be located within 500 linear feet of an entrance to a restaurant. No mobile food vendor shall be located within 15 linear feet of any street intersection, pedestrian crosswalk, driveway, fire hydrant, alleys, handicap parking spaces, or building entrances. Mobile food vendors shall not be located within 100 feet of gas pumps, underground gas storage tanks, and vent pipes. The mobile food vendor operations, they shall be limited to the parking areas of privately owned, non-residential property. And mobile food vendors may be allowed on privately owned residential property in conjunction with a small gathering or a nonprofit event with a minimum of 5 acres. And only one vendor will be permitted at such an event. And we also do have an allowance in the clause for on privately owned non-residential properties. We're allowing up to 5 food trucks to gather on those. And the hours of operation, they shall not be allowed to operate between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. So that's just a synopsis on the key points in the ordinance. And if there are any questions, if not, Chairman, this is a public hearing as well. It was advertised as a public hearing.
Thank you. We're going to open it up now for those that would like to speak in support tonight. The applicant is the county. If you would like to support this tonight, you may come at this time. You have 10 minutes to do so. Please state your name and your address for the record, please. Would anyone like to speak in favor tonight? Does anyone like to speak in favor tonight? That portion of our public hearing is closed. We also allow 10 minutes for those that would like to oppose tonight. You may come at this time. You have 10 minutes to do so. Please state your name, your address for the record, please. Anyone would like to oppose tonight? Anyone would like to oppose tonight? Thank you. That portion of our public hearing is closed. Ms. Applewhite, if you would, please come on back up. Commissioner, seek a motion, please.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Cowan. Any discussion? Commissioner Sanders.
I just have a question, Director Applewhite. Wait, I'm sorry. The cost, you said is any license or permit that's required by the Department of Public Health. What is Newton County offering a permit? And I apologize if I missed that portion, and how much does the permit cost?
Yes, so they would have to present their state licenses, and then they would have to get a permit from us for the event that they are doing. And I apologize, Commissioner, I don't believe I have the amount here.
Okay.
But we are working on updating our fee schedule, and it will be included in there for approval by the board.
So does the permit consist of a certain location that they have to get it, or just a permit for the whole entire Newton County, no matter where it's located? Is there a certain
It would be a
area?
permit for the event, yeah, that they're requesting it for.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Ms. Applewhite, can you tell me what the impetus behind this? I mean, what got this discussion started, and how do you, give me an example of how you see this playing out if one of these food trucks, food vendors?
We've had a lot of inquiries over at least the past 2 years from citizens, requesting to permit a food truck to have at an event or something like that. I know that we've had at least a couple of big events last year that asked to do food trucks, and we could not allow that in our temporary permit. So we were able to permit everything else except the use of the food trucks. We've had larger vendors wanting to come and locate their food truck business here. So even though so the demand was there for it, to move forward with this. And that's why we brought it before the board for consideration. All of the surrounding counties are already permitting it. I've checked with Zwolle and Rockdale, Henry County, of course, DeKalb, so they're already doing that. So it was just Newton, and the inquiries kept coming. So that is why we decided to take a look at that. We have limited it to just one food truck if you're going to do a private event on your home, and you'll have to have 5 acres or more, because we want to make sure there's enough room for that. And then on non-residential locations, as long as you have the permission of the owner, you can be allowed up to 5 trucks. Because we are trying to, for safety reasons, just to limit it, not to have too many trucks out there at one time. So anywhere from 1 to 5 on non-residential properties. There will be no cooking on the trucks, so they'll have to prep the food, like how it's normally done, and then bring it with them for sale.
Does it have to be in conjunction with an event? Or let me ask that, can I set up a food vendor, if a church on 278 gives me permission, can I set up a food vendor truck in that parking lot of that church just any day of the week?
You can. So it is for events as well, and then for non-residential properties, as long as you've got the permission of that owner. So we just limit the number of trucks you can have out there. And there are other restrictions in place to manage it, if you read through the ordinance, but yes. That is what we're proposing, if the board is in agreement.
Commissioner Sanders.
Director Applewhite, kind of piggybacking off of Commissioner Edwards' question, give you an example, like if you go into the city of Atlanta, the trucks can go, it don't have to be an event. It could be a certain area where the trucks are allowed, and like for instance, I want to say Peachtree. They're there probably during noontime because they know the worker's going to come out at a certain time for lunch, and those food trucks are there. So Is there an exception for that? Are we only allowing food trucks in Newton County just for event purposes?
No, ma'am, it is outside of events. It does allow that. That's where the total of 5 food trucks come in at, in one non-residential location. So yes, they can set up outside of an event, if it's, like you're saying, you know, to cater for employees or workers, as long as they have permission from the owner. It has to be only on non-residential property.
Okay. And then my last question, I see no operating hours from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. What if there are events that go past the 10 p.m.? Is there going to be exception or additional fee, or are they just not allowed, period? Because I know we have some events that go over 10 p.m. So what would be the ruling from Development Services? They're going to come to us and ask. So I want to make sure we put this out here on recording on what Development Services' suggestion is in regards to that.
So right now, for if it's going to be a county event, it is those are exempted from that rule. For some of the rules, including that one. Yeah, but right now we do have the time at that. I guess we can just look at it on a case-by-case basis as it comes up. Again, we're just trying to be able to manage it, you know, as best as we can.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. C. So these events is just an unincorporated, or did I hear it would be in the city of Covington? Could I buy a permit and park my truck anywhere in the city of Covington, whereas the patron, people who own the business or property will allow me to?
So this particular ordinance will govern just properties in an unincorporated Newton County. Yes, sir.
Unincorporated. So how we police them? In other words, I got a truck, and I'm in Newbern, and I mean, they pull the truck up and sell food. How would they get a permit from us, or who would maybe check it out, or maybe pass by and see it? Who would enforce that permit?
We do, code enforcement will eventually, if we get any complaints coming in, but again, because it's going to be on private property, on non-residential private property, right? They would have to agree to whatever terms that owner, you know, allows them to. But if a complaint comes in, code enforcement will respond to those.
Any more questions? Any more discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Pass 5-0.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, this brings us to the end of the zoning cases, but I would like to make an announcement for a comp plan if possible.
You can, go ahead.
Thank you. So we're having, there's going to be a meeting on the 24th. I believe Ms. Jackie pushed these flyers out last week. So I just wanted to remind the board and everyone here that's present, it's going to be at Eternal Lake Park, just down the street. And it's going to be a hybrid meeting where we will have a presentation as well as, you know, to get feedback from the citizens, and it will go on till 8 p.m. So I just wanted to just remind everyone that we are having that. First one, it's another opportunity for citizens to come out, give feedback, comment, and to see what information we've gotten so far, and to just give us feedback on that as well. And then it will go to the Planning Commission on the 25th and come before the Board of Commissioners on the 2nd. For approval, and then it goes up to DCA, and then we'll come back to the board for adoption in June.
Thank you.
Which will conclude that portion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Tanya.
Mr. Chairman, we return to number 8, the consent agenda for A, B, and C.
Thank you. I seek a motion that we approve the consent agenda, please. Can I get a second? It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we are on items for discussion and consideration. Our next item on the agenda is number 9, Dr. Karshik Sims Alvarado, the CEO of Preserve Black Atlanta.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight.
It's good to see faces from 2 years ago and a few new ones as well. So thank you for inviting me here again. I'm glad to be back and to give you a report that was made from 2 years ago. Let me begin by first sharing what is Preserve Black Atlanta, my role with the organization. I am the CEO, and this organization was formed actually in 2015, and we've grown very quickly within that short amount of time. Just to give you a few highlights of what we've done, our goal, our mission is to preserve the history and life and culture of African Americans and to identify cultural and historical assets that can serve as a catalyst for stimulating economic growth. So that's one of the things that make us different when we start looking at preserving the history and life and culture. How can we actually use the culture and historical assets to stimulate economic growth? In other words, how do we create the creative economy and looking at culture and historical assets? So this is why I want to come here today and present before you. We're not just limited to doing work in Atlanta. Our reach goes as far as, our reach expands to Sweden. One of our first projects actually in Atlanta began with creating a 4-mile outdoor walking exhibition, a walking trail exhibition that tells the story of the civil rights movement along the Atlanta Beltline. It actually came to be recognized as the longest outdoor photography exhibition on the civil rights movement, and it attracted over 2 million visitors within 1 year. After that, we were contacted by the Nobel Prize Museum in Stockholm, Sweden, to work on creating an exhibition on their most celebrated Nobel Prize laureate, Dr. Martin Luther King. Just recently, I just came back from Accra, Ghana. I'm working with David Ajay, who is the architect for the Smithsonian African American Museum in DC. And we are working to preserve the life of W.E.B. Du Bois by preserving his home, which would actually serve as a catalyst for economic growth and celebrating his history and his legacy. So I'm here today to give you a report on where we left off at and how do we move forward. I came before you in September 2020. For those who are new to the commission, the Board of Commissioners actually approved a resolution to preserve the site of the undisturbed burial ground where 150 enslaved persons were interred over 150 years ago on the 837-acre site that's owned by the county at Myrtle Creek Farms. Maybe to give you a little bit more clarity of where the site is, it's actually at Davis Ford Road. And these individuals who are buried there never lived to see the day of freedom. So it is my goal, and I hope it is your goal as well, to learn the names of these individuals who are buried there. How do we learn the names of their descendants as well? How do we humanize them? Through research, through preservation, and memorialization. And I keep asking myself this question when I think about them. How did the enslaved bury their loved ones respectfully and with dignity when they own nothing? I constantly think about that when I walk into the woods and I see the indentations in the ground where you see that their bodies have returned to the earth. The only thing that's serving as markers are rocks, trees, flowers, maybe a few plum trees. And so I keep thinking about, how do we restore dignity to these individuals? How do we humanize them? Also regarding the resolution that was passed, the resolution stated that it would grant a researcher, a company or organization of some kind, with permission to place this site on the National Register for Historic Places. But when I reached out to the National Park Service and the State Historical Preservation Society, what was shared with me was that there was an application that was submitted a few years back to place what is referred to as the Gaither site on the National Register for Historic Places. There are other sites that receive recognition by the State Historical Preservation Society, but something strange happened with this particular application. They just stopped midway. And what I learned was that it was the Chief of Staff for Chairman Ellis, who actually introduced me to this site, his chief of staff began writing the application, but then she passed away. So the State Historical Preservation Office would like to see the site placed on the National Registry, but they share with me that the county does not need to have permission from them first in order for this site to be declared as historic. So that is the beautiful thing about it. So it got me to thinking about, okay, what are our next steps? They said the first thing that you have to do is you need some sort of confirmation if you're trying to get status, nomination status from the state, is to confirm that there are actually human skeletal remains on the site. And they recommend having a GPR, ground penetration radar survey, done to validate that there are actually human skeletal remains that's there. But it does not preclude you from declaring this site as historic. So I wanted to share that with you. I presented a PowerPoint for you in looking at next steps. I stated some of these things already. That the county, I'm recommending that the county, it's my suggestion that the county actually declare this site as historic and sacred by the Board of Commissioners. That you establish some sort of ethical standards to espouse good stewardship. How do you secure the site? How can you clear the grounds under the supervision of an expert so that you can get a sense of how many human beings are actually buried there? And I stated before that you can perform a ground penetration radar survey to confirm the number of interred persons at that site. But you may be surprised that there may be more than one burial ground that's on this 837-acre site. And then the next step, once you learned that you have human beings who are buried there, how do you conceptualize a plan in order to honor them, to memorialize them, to perform the research, and most importantly, humanize them and restore their dignity? So if you can go to the next slide. Okay. So one of the things that I recommend, in addition to performing the research, when you are creating these type of sites, they can be burdensome for the county to take care of them. But there are measures you can put in place in order, if you start now, to actually find ways to create a self-sustaining site. And so it's my suggestion that you create a living memorial for the dead. My suggestion is you create a botanical garden, and it can be part of your parks and rec. And this site should be dedicated to the enslaved. The other thing that you can do regarding the physical site of the house that's actually on the site is to establish a special collections there. In looking at history, if you're a Southern, all our history intersect. And by actually having Newton County residents to bring their family records to this site, to have a special collections, it can be the sharing of information. There's going to be clues within those records to learn about both the living and the dead. So this can be the beginning of a special collections that can serve as a branch of your library. This living memorial can be created by performing research to humanize the dead. It can serve as an attraction for people throughout the Southeast to come to your site to atone, to become educated, and to memorialize the dead. Within this 830-acre site, you can have an outdoor museum. You can have walking trails. You can study botany. You can have family gatherings. You can generate income from the rental of space and having programs and attractions. Next slide, please. So the way I kind of imagine it is that this is a prototype of what a botanical garden could look like to memorialize the dead. But it will come alive at night, if that's not too scary for some people. And this is an idea of how I imagine it being. How do you incorporate the arts with history in order to learn about botany, learn about the dead, and to honor them? Okay, next slide. Regarding the special collections, as I said, as an extension of the library, can help us to study the deceased and the living, to learn about African cultural traditional practices, To study slavery in Newton County, we have to address that. Perform genealogical research. It could serve as the beginning of a museum. You can create museum exhibitions. You can actually accept temporary and traveling exhibitions. You can create a library program as well as a lecture series. Next slide, please. And it can generate revenue, okay? Over 60 years ago, Boston decided to celebrate its American Revolutionary history. From just 13 sites, they created a walking trail. Today, it generates $1 billion in tourism dollars. The Atlanta Civil Rights Movement in Atlanta, they don't have 13 sites. Actually, you have the King Center, the Center for Civil and Human Rights. It generates $4 billion from tourism. And they're really not putting a hard push to celebrate the branding of its city around civil rights. The Legacy Museum in Montgomery, Alabama, just last year, 500,000 visitors, and they've created $117 million in revenue. Next slide. So next steps. And maybe I'll pause right there before I go into talk about the next steps regarding how do you establish an MOU? How do you create a feasibility study? Conceptualizing fabrication plans, that's all down the line. And most importantly, establishing partnerships. You can actually establish partnerships with companies, with organizations that actually want to be on the right side of history and to honor the deceased. There will be nothing else like this in the entire world. This will be the first outdoor botanical garden dedicated to formerly enslaved individuals who have not been buried with dignity for over 150 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. Commissioners, y'all have any questions? Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. It's just a question I have. I know that we have been looking at, this is my understanding, we have been looking at the possibility of a reservoir at some point. I think Commissioner Cowan had, we got to hang out a little bit and we talk. Just two of us now, so it doesn't have to be public. And so I think the plans that I had seen and that I remember is that partially, most of that property would be underwater because we were looking at a possible third reservoir. And I think at present, I think there is a hunting facility. I mean, somebody help me out a little bit, Commissioner Edwards. I think they can hunt down on that 800 and some odd acres too as well. I think they also shoot movies down there too as well. And so I was just trying to figure out if we are looking at a possible third reservoir in the future, then I mean, how could we navigate it? We probably need somebody to come in and tell us. Do you have anything?
Well, I don't think the reservoir site is near where this is. Actually, it will be a beautiful amenity to that side because it's on the, well, if you're facing the house, it would be to the right, way back.
Mm-hmm.
But there would be a view from the house to the lake if that reservoir is ever built. It'd be a beautiful site. I don't think it would impact the cemetery, but I think it would, I love the idea of a botanical garden. That's just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you.
Thank
you. Yes,
you.
and this one last follow-up question is that we also have a Afro-American organization too as well. So would that be incorporated into that particular plan? And should we have somebody to come out and tell us exactly where the reservoir would be at and how it addressed with the cemetery? We also have reenactments there, or at least I was familiar when I first came on the board, where you go out with the Confederate flags and reenact stuff over there too.
We ain't done that before.
So y'all haven't did it in a while. Randall said they haven't did that in a while. But they also have that going on there too. So it's a mixture of stuff that's going on down there that we probably need to have somebody to probably take a look at. How much money are we taking in at present from the movie industry? How much money are we contributing? I think it was about $80,000 in the budget. About 80,000. Did you hit my, Mr. Chairman, 80,000?
I'm sorry?
Was it about 80,000 in the budget that we contribute already to Gators at Myrtle Farm? And how would, lastly, would we pick up and think about the slave children? And I know one story that comes to mind about the little boy who the children had learned how to read. And when the master learned about it, they cut 3 of his fingers off. And so how would we commemorate those people who lived there and died there, and to make sure that they're not forgotten? I think it probably need a work session, I would think, on it in order to just raise our hand and move forward and make sure that the community is involved in it, to make sure that if we do that, that it will be well represented.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I agree with Commissioner Henderson speaking in regards to, I believe the community needs to be involved before anything is done on that property, because I'm not from Newton County and I've heard the stories. There's actually a book called Lay This Body Down that a commissioner in Jasper County just told me about that talks about what happened on that Gators property, and it's unbearable to read. So it needs to be able to have the residents involved, and we do have an organization, a nonprofit here in Newton County that already preserves the history, called the African American Historical Committee of Perseverance. Please forgive me if I forgot, I don't have the whole name correctly, but I think that needs to be done. And my other concern is the cost. Looking at Gaither's property, the Gaither plantation, I mean, they changed the name, but changing the name does not change the history of what happened on the property. It's just putting a Band-Aid on it. It is what it is. And so I did see that there was actually a petition some years ago to defund it, because the residents in Newton County did not want the counties, their taxpayers' dollars, paying for something that was a plantation, that had something that did cruelty to human beings. And I completely understand it. Like I said, I'm not from Newton County, so there's history. I've been here almost 17 years, but there's history. So I would like for the residents to be involved in that process before anything, the cost, and as the taxpayer said, how much is my money being invested in something that my ancestors had some history on there, or may have lost their lives on that plantation.
Most definitely.
Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for coming here tonight. I've been to that slave cemetery many times. This will sound wrong. It's an awesome place. It's a very reverent place to me. And you're correct that to have rocks representing humans is inhuman to me. So I look forward to hearing your suggestions in terms of how to present to the board and what we do to commemorate those folks. And I know Commissioner Henderson asked about the reservoir. It's the slave cemetery is would not be in the pool of water. It's up on a high hill, and actually very little of that farm would be actually in the pool if we built a reservoir tomorrow. So, but thank you for coming here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Dr. Alvarado, for coming and giving this presentation. I think so many tragedies in our history have occurred. For example, I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So when you look at the history of Black Wall Street, those streets of Greenwood, Archer, and Pine, which if you're familiar with the Gap Band, that's where they got their name from. The Gap Band came from the streets of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. And what I have seen over the years is that a lot of the things that have occurred that may not have been as positive, a community or individuals or band or group will take that's something that wasn't as positive and turn it around and make it into something that's educational, that it is positive, and preserving a culture. And so I think this idea of having a botanical garden, when I go back home to Tulsa, Oklahoma periodically, they have now revitalized that entire area of Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. There are a lot of people that come to see the cemetery there, to see the historic churches that were built there. They now have a huge, beautiful baseball field there. As a matter of fact, there's also a newly built and established museum that you can walk through, and it tells you all about back in the 1920s, how it began, how Black Wall Street was prior to the race riot. So it tells you and walks you through all of that, and at the very end, it gives you an opportunity to express your feelings and your emotions about what you felt during that entire tour. And so I think taking things that may not have been as positive in our community and making it positive and educational and restoring the culture, I think is amazing. And I think having a botanical garden to memorialize the deceased because they didn't get a proper burial, I think is amazing. And so thank you for this presentation today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. I have just one final comment. See, most of the people don't live down here, wasn't born down here, wasn't raised down here. Don't know about the people who owned that plantation were beat and hung because they didn't go along with the people who are the masters at that particular plantation. So all that I just really asked was that within the community, and I'm talking also all of us as brothers and sisters, and more specifically the black community, that we come together and see what we would like to see down at the plantation. Let us stop making stuff that is not representative of the community. Now, there was nobody down there when they were running around there in flags when I first came on the board. Nobody got up and said, oh, we just gonna stop this, but they did it. And then I said, well, if that's what they wanna do, all right. But I said, if we're gonna make it a place where we remember our people who have died, it could be some of my descendants, could be some of yours, then we need to come together as a community and have a work session or a meeting and see how we want to proceed with it, if indeed we do.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I forgot to add, I think I agree with my colleague. I think it'll be excellent to have our community involved in this type of project. I noticed in your presentation, you put to establish special collections, a branch of the library where those who were born and raised in Newton County, who were here during those times, if they have any archaeological records or archives or anything, that they can now bring those and they can be a part of this amazing project that we can come up with. So I think having the community involved, having community meetings, I think that would be excellent. So I agree 100% with that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank
Thank you
you
for giving us this update. We greatly appreciate you, and we definitely need to give some attention to, I had the opportunity to walk that cemetery several times, and to see the way that there's holes that's laying out there in the ground, and I mean, it's obvious is that there was bodies buried there, and just to sit there and look at that, they don't deserve that. I just say it like that. They don't deserve that. But thank you again for being here tonight.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is item number 10, Human Resources, hiring of the county manager position. Our presenters this evening are our director, Ms. Amanda Shoemaker, and our county attorney, Mr. Patrick Jogstetter.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi. As you're aware, the county received 25 applications for the county manager position. Of those 25 applications, 7 individuals were invited for an interview, and they were interviewed. And from those individuals, the board selected 2 finalists, Lucinda Babers and Harold Cooper.
Thank you. Patrick, you got anything you want to add?
Board, you've all seen, you've interviewed both candidates, you've reviewed their resumes, and I think you've now seen their compensation package demands. And I think it's ready for this board to deliberate and make a selection either now or in the near future. And that's why this appears on the agenda tonight, give you the opportunity to do so.
Thank you, sir. Guys, I seek a motion tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to hire Ms. Lucinda Babers for our candidate for county manager. And the reason being, before I actually move on, I had the opportunity, and this is one of your highest elected positions in the non-elected, positions in the county. And I wanted to make sure that I was making the right decision. So I took a look at both of them. And before we even gotten there, she was our finalist last year. And she wasn't in the top 3 until I actually requested to see all the resumes of all the candidates, because we were told the others were not qualified. And I happened to see her resume in the bunch. And because we had one that actually withdrew, she was added to the list. Looking at the qualifications, Ms. Babers has 31 years of state, and federal experience on the government area. She is the Deputy Mayor of Operations of Infrastructure for Washington, D.C., Director and Deputy Director of the Department of Motor Vehicles, United States Air Force Captain, Department Manager. She manages $651 million in operating funds and $1.97 billion in capital funding, of $500 million in revenue, and has managed a department with directors of 3,300 people. Now, that experience alone, including just her degrees alone, and I had the opportunity to just sit back and research. Do I know Ms. Babber personally? No, I've never spoken to this woman but in interviews. But looking at her research and what also our HR director also sent to us, I was impressed that she was the one that said it didn't matter if she did a year-to-year contract, which lets me know that she's ready to come in and work, that she is not baffled by having just a 1-year contract. Even a senior director of operation and project manager for Amtrak, where we're trying to move towards transportation. In her interview, she came in telling us exactly what we wanted, and I asked her the question specifically. It came out of my mouth. I asked, does she have grant writer experience? And she said yes, and went and spoke on those things. And I also did the research and found out that her statement was true, that she is a grant writer. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Ms. Lucinda Babers for our final county manager for starting in 2023.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second? Second. It's been motioned by Commissioner Sanders and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? That failed 3-2. Is there another motion to put on the floor? Is there another motion to put on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Harold Cooper from Henry County.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you, sir. It's been motioned by Commissioner Cowan to appoint Mr. Cooper and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? Commissioner Sanders?
Yes, sir. Again, looking at the experience, nothing against Mr. Cooper. He only has HR experience. Also, I'm aware that some people have personal relationships and directors. So that's my only issue. Ms. Babers knows no one on this board. She can come into this county non-biased and move forward and work with every commissioner on this horseshoe evenly, because she don't know neither one of us. So we're about to pass up something, and I heard in the community, whether it's true or not, that y'all don't want another black, educated black woman. So I'm praying that is not what's happening today.
All in favor? All opposed? We passed 3-2. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Ms. Hamp?
Mr. Chair, the next item on the agenda is item number 11, BOC requesting approval of $10,000 for the Juneteenth holiday celebration. Our presenter is Commissioner Elena Sanders.
Thank you so much. Just to give you a little history. June 19th, 1865, when some 2,000 Union troops arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas, the Army announced that there were more than 250,000 enslaved black people in the state were freed by executive decree. The day became Juneteenth by the newly freed people in Texas. June 17, 2021, enacted by the 117th United States Congress to amend the Title V of the United States Code to designate Juneteenth National Independence Day as a legally public recognized holiday. 4th of July was established in July 4, 1776. The Declaration of Independence was officially adopted, and America became a free nation, but not Black America. We didn't become free until 1865. So the reason why I put this on the agenda is for fairness and equality. For any organization that's a federally recognized holiday for freedom and independence, it's not a racial thing. It's about being fair. So if we're gonna give $10,000 to the 4th of July celebration, then we need to do the same for a nationally federal recognized holiday, Juneteenth, which is called Juneteenth Independence Day, confirmed by Congress and signed by our President of the United States. And I put that in the motion.
Is there a second? Second. It's been motioned by Commissioner Sanders and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion? Commissioner Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Juneteenth is a great holiday and great celebration. I'm just want to put this question out there. Has Newton County actually ever decided or thought about maybe making this a county celebration where the county actually puts on a Juneteenth celebration? I don't know if that has ever been offered or submitted. Maybe that might be a great idea to have the county to have that celebration of Juneteenth.
It hasn't never been offered, since I've been here, to answer your question. Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I know we've participated in the Juneteenth parade. So if this board designates $10,000, who will be stroking the check to? I mean, what if we want to go through the celebration? Who we stroke the check to?
I have Commissioner Sanders.
The same committee you approved last year to pay for their permits. That was the African American Historical Committee, nonprofit organization that's in T.K. Adams building in the county.
Okay, so last year we made a check payable.
Guys, hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Can't do that. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Go ahead.
So last year, I'm sorry, Commissioner Sanders, I'm deaf. So say that again.
Last year, this board approved to pay for the permits for the Juneteenth parade, which has been done by that organization for years, a nonprofit organization, the African American Historical Committee. They're also a nonprofit that's in one of our county buildings, T.K. Adams building.
Okay, so what do we get? I mean, what did we give last year?
What do we get for the 4th? No, not trying to be smart, Commissioner, but what did we get from we didn't get an explanation of the 4th of July. Only thing we was told it was going to be used for fireworks.
I'm trying to get to where we can give $10,000. I'm trying to make sure we do it right.
Hold on, guys. We sponsored the field. The field, the Legion Field. Thank you, Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. If I'm not mistaken, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, the county, we don't recognize Juneteenth Day. I think it's maybe on the calendar, the revolving day. And I said that, it said it's the city of Covington. And they recognize Juneteenth Day and they give their employees a holiday. Now the county says it revolves, so you can commemorate whatever you want to be. It can be anything. But I think it's very important to us in the community to just say Juneteenth Day. It's a holiday, you know, Independence Day. And why can't we just come together on little stuff like that in our community? And, you know, this is a very beautiful community, and our population in Newton County is growing. And so we're going to have to commemorate days like that. We're going to have to remember people of color and brown-skinned people as what they have done in our communities. We got to remember them. And it just can't, in my opinion, just be a cemetery where you make it look real good and make money. It's just got to be the average person in Newton County. Like, for example, Tyrone Brooks, who serviced in Morrisville Bridge. We got to remember him. People like Forrest Sawyer Jr. We got to remember people like him and others who have did stuff in this county who stood up for us, marched for us, marched out here in the march from our cousin on the Black Easter march from our cousin up into the square when it wasn't popular to do, when people would call them all kind of names. So I don't think what I'm saying, let's not forget the people like those people. And the ones who are still living like Miss Terry James, let us not forget her too as well, because she's been fighting and fighting and fighting for just the right to have people recognized in this community to be remembered.
Anyone else? Commissioner Sanders.
Just my last statement, and just to state this, it seems like it's always a fight for issues that deal with minorities. I don't understand it. We all are equal. I believe that everybody in this county deserves equality, no matter your color, race, background, or culture. I grew up around everyone. I actually went to school and I was the only African-American cheerleader, so forth. So I don't understand why we don't fight for all in this county. It's really mind-boggling. It really is. We ask explanations from one organization, they got to do this, audits and so forth, and you don't ask same thing for other organizations. We got to stop this. We are not back in the 1800s. This is 2023.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd actually like to make a substitute motion that the county actually put on this Juneteenth celebration and allow our historical committee to be a part of that putting together of that county celebration for Juneteenth.
Is there a second? It's been motioned that the county sponsor Juneteenth. That you mean financially and everything, right? Financially. And work with the historical. Okay. All right, it's been seconded by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. Why can't we do it the way it was intended? And that was for Miss Terry James, who had brought it to us and ran it for all these years. And rather than have at a board meeting, the county takes over. It's about, to me, about working in the community with folks who, and we walked with her, you know, in the parades. It was good. And now we're taking it from her and let her run it. So, you know, I can't understand why the county would want to take it from her, rather than, if anything, funding her, let her organize it, and then you work with her to make it even a bigger celebration than it already is.
Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this would be in the hands of our new special events coordinator. Is that how, director, is that how we would do that?
Yeah, we have to, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Guys, I want to make a suggestion. And I think the county should be involved. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But to put it on her in such short notice, now if you want to do it for the next year, let the county be the complete sponsor, and maybe ask the city of Covington to partner with us, and let our special coordinator work with the Historical Society. I think that would be a better motion, because I mean we're about to be in May, then you got June, yep. So I want to tell you how to make your amend your motion or nothing like that, but I will tell you to consider that because you will be asking a lot for her to do in a month's time. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a substitute motion that would, for us to sponsor Miss Terry this year with $10,000, then work with her the next year, see if there's something that we want to take on the responsibility as a county on as a Juneteenth Day as we look forward to it in the future.
Second.
it's been motioned by, substitute motion is on the floor. It's a motion by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion? Any discussion? Commissioner Kyle?
I want to make another substitute motion. All right. I'm still struggling with this right here because I know Ms. Terry has done a great job with that program. I'm not interested in taking anything away from a private citizen who's engaged their time into providing an event for the community. Not interested in that. Question comes down to, what do we do? At this point in time, I think we ought to agree to do what we did last year, and then I think we ought to table the issue of additional money because I don't know what her ability is to handle money, accounts, and stuff like that. I know I've made some donations to that. It was just because I wanted to. But when you're talking about county money, I think we need to have a little bit of research into how that's going to be accounted for and everything. And just somebody sit down and talk with her about it. That's my thoughts. And that's a substitute motion.
That's a substitute motion.
Yes, I'd like to make that as a substitute motion that we not take it away and take it over from by the county, but we allow Ms. Terry to handle that. We go ahead and agree to what we did last year, and then we sit down and we think through about the money issue. I want to make sure that it's properly accounted for. There's a proper way to handle it.
So I think the county agreed last year to handle all permits.
Yes.
All
Right.
permits.
Right. That way we know the permits and stuff's taken care of.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to move forward with designating $10,000 for the county for the county to put on the Juneteenth celebration. That's what I want to do. I don't want to lose sight of the $10,000 tonight. If we table it, we're running out of time.
Okay.
So those are just my thoughts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Do we want to make sure that she's got the ability to handle that kind of money, computer-wise, report-wise stuff? I don't know.
So guys, hold on, guys. Ms. Terry James, if you would please come up, please.
I have a budget here.
I'm sorry.
I have a budget. I can give it to you.
Oh, okay, good.
I take it. So while they making copies, can you kind of talk to your towards your budget, please?
Yes, last year, the county and the city partnered together to pay for the parade. That's the only thing they did. Now, the city has partners with us, and they're taking care of the parade and, well, the Black History Parade and the Juneteenth Parade. The city is doing that. Mr. Ken, he worked with us, so he's taking care of that. This budget here is breaking down everything that we could do with the $10,000.
So when you say the county and the city is, I mean the city, they making a donation and paying for the parade and the Black History Parade?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, this paper, well, I don't have my glasses, but that's why I brought this for everybody to see, a copy of what we'll be doing with the $10,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So any questions for Ms. James? Commissioner Sanderson first.
They're paying for the permits. Is that what you're speaking of?
They're paying for the permit for the parade, for Black History and Juneteenth.
Okay,
and only thing we're paying for is the insurance.
So that's what I want to make clear, because when you're saying paying, people thinking they're donating a whole lot of money.
Oh, no,
so
no,
it's
no.
only the permits that you
Yes.
have to do the parade.
Right.
Not the actual putting on the event itself.
No, no, no. No.
Thank you.
No.
And you do have a board that manages your operation, am
Oh,
I
yeah.
correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
Commissioner Calvin.
my question is, Ms. James, you have a bank account for this money going into as a
Yes, sir.
as a nonprofit?
Yes, sir.
Okay, as a nonprofit, you're going to have to be listed as an appropriation. So at some point, you're going to have to provide some financial documents to the county. Are you going to be able to do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I'm fine. As long as you're able to do that, I'm good with that.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. C. I would just like for the board to finally, from the county standpoint, to recognize Juneteenth Day and make it a official holiday of the county. Juneteenth Independence Day on
It is.
that day.
It is.
Okay, so I
It
know
is
one
a-
point we changed the revolving,
No,
so we made it permanent.
Remember last year, you guys asked to make that a permanent holiday, and we did. We made it
Okay,
a permanent holiday.
that's great. Make it a permanent holiday, and that's good. And one last thing, it just hit me. She had been having such a hard time with getting a lease agreement from the county for the TK Adams building, and I don't know why it's been so hard. So why don't we just do what we need to do? If there's some more other information that she may need, make sure she provide it for the county, and let's just get off of every chance. Every time I go out in the community, people saying that they're gonna put out and they're gonna do this, and I'm just tired of it. And I want to come to an end so we can all be peaceful, live peacefully here in Newton County, and recognize some of the people of color. We know all who made our county so beautiful, who worked together. I'm just say one last thing. We used to have a lot of pictures when you first come into the historic courthouse. And on the picture, you would see the old guys, who had the mule and holding the columns in the back, and then you would see maybe what I thought was their master ran the square. But they made Newton County by the hard work that they done, and remember nobody who worked any harder than my grandfather, who was a sharecropper farmer, John H. Henderson. And up until, and I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about me, and I'm gonna close it. Up until I became a teenager, I really thought my granddad was a white man. And so my point being is, there was a lot of things that were going on in my life that I didn't know, but I found out once I got grown. Thank you, Mr. C.
Any more discussion?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine with everything now.
We're gonna give him $10,000.
Stan, you want to make the motion?
I can.
Who make, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's a motion on the floor, right? 3 and 4.
You're on the third substitute motion.
Yep.
And what is it?
3 and 4.
Which was to give the same thing as we gave last year.
Right.
That third substitute motion was made and seconded.
Make another substitute motion.
No.
Okay, why don't you make another substitute?
Just let Stan do it.
Somebody give me a motion. Give me a substitute motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My substitute motion is this board is to designate $10,000 for the Juneteenth celebration to be administered by the county. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So listen, why don't we do this? Let me see something.
You made a motion, is that accepted? You come back to something else?
Okay, okay, give me a second then. Give me a second. Is there a second? Is there a second? Commissioner Edwards made a motion that we donate $10,000 to the Juneteenth celebration administered by the county. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm
Commissioner
still
Cowles.
confused. All right. All right. Is she going to be in charge of this, or is the county going to take it over? I don't want the county to take it over. When a citizen has put this together, I don't think it's our responsibility. We can support it, but I don't think it's our responsibility to take it.
I got a solution. Why don't we, if the county wants to donate $10,000 to Juneteenth, so why don't we pay for your supplies? I think you're doing scholarships and things like that, and the county do that. We do that. If y'all don't want to give the money
I think
directly,
she's got a good budget here.
Well, yeah. Hey, I'm trying to get it.
So let me make a recommendation. We're caught up in the notion of a donation a little bit. My recommendation would be that the county consider entering into a contract with the Newton County Historical Committee on Black Heritage Preservation, by which the Historical Committee agrees to conduct on the county's behalf a Juneteenth celebration in exchange for payment of $10,000. You're paying for a service. It's not a donation. We are buying a Juneteenth celebration from the Historical Committee. And it's open to the public, just like any other public event was, which it already is, I think, open to the public, and it would include all of the items referenced on the proposed budget.
Mr. Chairman, I make a substitute motion that we agree with what the county attorney has said.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the next item on the agenda is item number 12, Senior Services requesting approval to change request for a van purchase to a vehicle purchase. Our presenter is Ms. Frida Reed, our director. Funding source is going to be ARPA. No additional funding is required, and the cost is $27,000.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Doing great. How you doing?
All right. Sad right now, but I'm good. I would, we did a good thing. We were good stewards with our money that you gave us, ARPA. So we went out and we found a cheaper price on our van, on our shuttle van, and we saved ourselves $27,000. Because of the wording of our ARPA, it said that we wanted to purchase a van. However, we cannot find a van for $27,000, but we can find vehicles like an SUV or a car, and this is for our Meals on Wheels. Our cars are 10, 12 years old, 200,000 miles. They keep breaking down and out of service, so that means we can't provide meals. We have to use our own vehicles, or we have to use a shuttle bus that requires a lot of gas to get from place to place. So we're just asking the board if they would allow us to change the word in the ARPA from van to vehicle.
Thank you, ma'am. I seek a motion, please. It's been motion by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, item number 13 is next for Information Services, IT Department requesting approval of AT&T USM Anywhere Annual Renewal Contract. Our presenter is the Director, Mr. Greg Mann. It is budgeted. Funding source is fiscal year 23 Information Services budget, and the cost is just above $1,300
Thank you.
per month.
Good evening.
Good evening. Requesting approval of an agreement with AT&T on a renewal of our USM Anywhere service. What this service provides, it collects data from our firewalls, all of our endpoints, all of our network devices, and gives us intelligence on what it sees and gives us alerting, and it gives us a place to hold on to those logs in case we need to retrieve those logs at some point. It gives us a single pane of glass to keep tabs on our network security.
Thank you, sir. You gotta seek a motion, please. Can I get a second? Second. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Henderson. In the discussion, all in favor? It passed 5-0.
Mr. Chair, number 14, Mr. Mann will handle as well. Requesting approval of WatchGuard, AuthPoint, MFA renewal agreement, a 3-year term, cost $16,456.50. It is budgeted, and our information services budget will be the funding source.
Seeking approval of this agreement with JSCM Group for our WatchGuard AuthPoint multi-factor authentication technology. What this does is it requires the use of a smartphone application or physical token when logging on to county computer systems and email accounts.
Thank you. Seek a motion, please. I get a second? Second. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we have Ms. Brittany White, the Director of Finance. She'll be handling number 15, 16, and 17. 15 is the March 2023 financial update. 16 is requesting approval of the fiscal year budget amendments. And then 17 is also going to be the final one for her, Nelson Heights Audit 2019 through 2021.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight I will be presenting the March 2023 financials. March is the 9th month of our fiscal year, so that puts us around 75% of the way through FY23. I will start with the general fund revenues. Our revenues to date for the general fund are $75.4 million, which is 89.18% of actual to budget. And these two graphs just show the revenues by month and then the revenue of actual to budget. Our general fund expenditures to date, we are at $61.9 million, so that puts us at 72.59, so we're trending really close to that 75% number. And these two graphs just show by months revenue or expenditures and then our actuals to budget. So the general fund totals at this point in the year, our revenues are $13.5 million over our projected amount, but you will see that decrease as we go throughout the year. We have 3 enterprise funds. The water fund, they have currently brought in $7.3 million to date in revenues. Their expenses to date are $5.1 million. The solid waste fund, their revenues to date are $5.5 million. Expenses to date are $4.2 million. And our Gaithers and Factory Shells fund, revenue to date $221,000 and expenses to date $179,000. We have 2 active SPLOST. The 2011 SPLOST has 1 active project, which is the historic jail. Our 2017 SPLOST, several of the projects are active, and there's currently $37.1 million in that budget. Our collections to date, we have collected $90.1 million, so that does put us $29.8 million over what the original estimated collections are. And we have, we'll collect with this SPLOST through June, and then starting July, we'll start to collect on the 2023 SPLOST. And then our impact fee fund, we currently have $4.6 million fund balance in that fund. And that wraps up the financials. Are there any questions?
Any questions, guys? Thank you.
Number 16 on the agenda is a budget amendment request for FY23. So there are 3 departments in our budget that are currently either over budget or trending to be on over budget really soon. The first one is information systems, and they've had a few unexpected expenses, one being website maintenance, additional Laserfish license, and increases in security assessments, and they need an additional $25,200 to cover the remaining balance for that. Our fleet department, they've just seen increases in cost. Parts are more expensive. I think we all know that. We see every time we go to the store, increase in supplies and everything else. So their parts for their vehicles have gone up, so they're going to need an additional $120,000. And then our development services, they've had an increase in plan reviews due to the moratorium lifting, and as well as increase in commercial plans. And they need a total of $90,000. So that, what we'll do is we'll amend the revenue budget for our interest income. The interest rates are higher this year than anticipated in the budget, so we'll take the $235,200 from that line. Are there any questions?
Any questions, commissioners? I need a motion, please. So moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Cowan. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0.
Okay, item number 17 is the Nelson Heights audit 2019 through 2021, and we are requesting the board's directions on releasing the appropriation funds. You will find 2 different pages of information in your agenda packet. The first one is the audited financial statement. The page you'll want to pay attention to with the auditor's opinion there is page 1. So that lists your independent auditor's report. Under the disclaimer of opinion, they did mention that they do not express an opinion due to basically insufficient documents that were turned over. So there was not an independent auditor's recommendation made on this.
Any questions, guys?
The second page is the communication of significant deficiencies and material weaknesses.
Any questions? I seek a motion, please. I'm sorry?
Councilman Henderson here?
Yes.
Did he want to address any of this?
Can I put that man on the spot, man? You like to come up? Yeah. I mean, I think he can reiterate the things he said a little earlier.
Yeah, so pretty much you guys may see what the auditor is recommending. So basically, I felt like we had a lot of that covered through our tax accounting, but it looks like that we might have to go a little bit above that. But right now, we're currently trying to work with our tax accountant to get the insufficient forms that they say that may be missing. So once we get all that over to them, I think we should be in good shape. But temporary, no, we'll at least ask you guys if you can release the funds to maintain the county facility, because right now, we're trying to make it work.
Any questions?
Question that I have, and I
Commissioner
kind of,
Anderson.
thank you, and I kind of speak with and talk with Anthony. So what were, I mean, since we want it public, I believe in being transparent. So what was the deficiencies as far as the funds?
There's a list, so do you want me to read all of them? Okay. Lack of adequate W-9 records. All vendors and independent contractors are to be required to be provided fully completed and signed W-9s. Lack of basic adequate vendor invoices. Lack of adequate I-9 records. Lack of basic separation of duties. Lack of basic adequate sales and revenue invoices. Lack of adequate rental lease agreements for tenants, and lack of adequate grant funding agreements. So those are the deficiencies in the internal control section. Then in the significant deficiencies, there are duplicate check numbers and checks not written in sequence. All checks are to be written in sequence, with each check having its own unique check number. Inadequate check payment records. A copy of each check issued needs to be attached to the corresponding invoice or timesheet and filed in the organizational's clerical files. Inadequate independent contractor tax filings. The 1099 self-employment income form needs to be filled out to the IRS annually for payments over $600. Inadequate vehicle operation logs. Log records and liability waivers are recommended. Lack of very basic standard operation procedures. It is recommended that management drafts a basic printed set of standard operation procedures to cover safety, governance of day-to-day operations to be distributed to all staff, personnel, and management within the organization.
Thank you. Who was the last time this night was given an appropriation? Who was the last time they was given an appropriation?
It would have been June of 2022,
Okay.
so last fiscal year.
Okay, so it was last year, so they haven't given no money at all. Now, I just want to just make this comment, and because that's typically what I do. Now, we did not even choose the auditor, Mr. Martin Sanchez. The county, y'all chose him. May I please get through? The reason why I said that, because there was discussion between, I have the emails. I have the emails right here from Ms. Denise, where y'all discussed it. Who signed for it? Who signed for it?
Denise with Bookkeeping Solutions is the one who submitted the invoices and everything for Mr. Sanchez.
ma'am.
This county did not go out and solicit him.
Yes, you gave him a engagement letter, but let me say this. Washington Street, who did something similar, they gave 3 months of where they took the audit. They gave 3 months. We had an engagement letter from Sims, the former interim county manager, and on it, and I have it right here if anybody want to see it, and hopefully tomorrow at the when we come here for the joint meeting between District 2 and District 3 and District 4, I also have them two available. He gave the engagement letter, and it said J.C. Henderson, President of Nelson Heights Community Center, and then he had a list of stuff that they want them to go by and look for. Now, when we took over, and I was the CEO then, we took over, the county was doing all of that. Then the county, I don't think Ronnie was here, so I said, we're not going to do it anymore. And they stuck us 4 years. Nelson Heights Community Service took our 501c3, put it under the county, and then we picked up Mason because we thought Mason was the one who could help us, and they had been there from the beginning. So if there was anything that was lacking that we had done, it wasn't because we weren't doing it, because we may not have had somebody who could help us doing what we need to do for Nelson Heights. But to make a long story short, Mr. Sanchez was hired by Sims, and he was hired to go back and audit me, to do an investigation on me. The reason I said that because he was asking for information from 2016, the audit that we did, the forensic audit. He asked for information from that. And so I went by Ms. Jackie and I got all the information. And I said, why is he asking for all that? Because he said that's what they told him to do. And it wasn't supposed to be about me. It was supposed to be about Nelson Heights. And it was supposed to us figuring out a way that we could make sure that the children in that community and all over Newton County, so we could do similar to the same as we had did for other communities, outside moving, having a whole summer of activities that we had planned for the community, more Anthony than myself. And now all of a sudden, you know, they acting like we stole something, and we hadn't stolen a cent. So if there's the records are inadequate, they weren't inadequate in 2019, because we came up here and made a presentation. You took it and you awarded, well, not you. They took it and they awarded us the money. All of a sudden, there's something totally different. Rather than trying to work with us in the community for our seniors and for our children, it seems like every organization that are people of color, they work against them unless they are in the majority on this board. So we just want to be treated right. We want our children to have a fun place to go out and have fun during the summer. We want our children to be tutored because their math scores are way down. And we got the right idea, we got the right person running the organization, and I think we need to work with it. Councilman Henderson. Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I had the opportunity today, and it's ironically that I did this because I just went by there. I went by Washington Street today, and I had a conversation with Ms. B. And Ms. B even said, this is unfair, that her and Nelson Heights have been receiving appropriation from the county for almost 15, 20 years, and now all of a sudden 3 nonprofits that just so happen to be the nonprofits of color were asked to do these reviews. I said this when it happened because no other nonprofit in Newton County was asked to do these reviews. And it's not coming at you, Brittany. I know you're in the hot seat, so don't think that's happening. But my question is, and it's probably coming from your office, this is what I said from day one. Newton County is reactive and not proactive. What is the standing operating procedure that you're providing to the nonprofits on how they should manage it when they are receiving appropriations from the county? Is that provided to every nonprofit that we receive, that we give appropriation to, that you have to have X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or whatever it may be for an audit or to have it on deck? Is that, that's my question, that's number one question. Is that given to every nonprofit that if you happen to be audited, this is what you gotta have and how we want it conducted? Because that's called a standard operating procedure. Some may say SOP.
There is a list of items that came directly from the 501c3 policy that list what they need to turn in upon their application for requesting appropriation. We have 2 applications. There's one for 501c3s and then there's one for standard appropriations, because there's only 2 501c3s that the county appropriates. Everybody else is a quasi-government agency, your library, your economic development, your health department, and DFACS. They're all other government agencies. So their list is also very similar. Each of them are audited every year. Some of them are even component units of our county audit that they're required, that we are required to put their audits within our audit.
So that means that Washington Street, Nelson Heights, McIntosh Trail has done this for about 15, 20 years on that paper, because I see that paper every year. That's what's required of everybody that comes for appropriation in this county, right?
Yeah, everybody is
Okay,
sent the
so they
same
have,
exact thing.
so they have conducted that for the past 15 years before we even got to this portion where we asking them for additional amount.
The requirements that were put on the applications that were sent out was updated when the board approved the 501c3 policy.
Yeah, that proven, you talking about the one with the $2,500 one? Yeah, that was only for new nonprofits that are coming in, because I was the one who actually initiated that with Ms. Martin that was sitting right here. So that's only for new nonprofits that are coming in and requesting appropriation, not those who are already grandfathered in, because I was a part of that. That was the reason why, because I was the one trying to make sure that the African American Historical Committee was a part of our appropriation. That's where that document came from. It wasn't from the existing nonprofits. It's for those who were new. You can go watch the recording. It's all recorded. Thank God we recorded. Thank God for technology. It's all there. So that's my question, is that we as Newton County been giving appropriations to these nonprofits, and poor old McIntosh, they only get $2,500 from us, so you're requesting them to do this 3-year audit for $2,500. That's ridiculous. But hey, it is county money. If you want to see it, that's fine, but I don't even think they even participated
They
in that.
actually already had an audit because they're I guess a sub-recipient of state money, so they're required to give their
only
audit.
the
So they were
two-
able to pay. They were, when the board made the motion, I reached out to the three entities mentioned, McIntosh, Washington Street, Nelson Heights, and McIntosh turned over the audits that they already had.
So only Washington Street and Nelson Heights are the two being put on Front Street, basically. And so that is the issue. I've said this when I got on this board in 2021. Newton County does not have standard operating procedures in place, and we do things after the fact or based on feelings and emotions, or if somebody makes us mad, we're gonna put a policy in place. That's ridiculous. So if we have been granted, and it's not coming at you, Brittany, you just happen to be the finance director, so please, I just don't want you to think that it's happening. But if we have been given appropriations to two organizations, like I said, I sat and talked to Ms. B, and she even said it was unfair. And she said if she knew what was going on, she would have not agreed to do an additional audit. Because I'm telling you what it looks like to the people of Newton County, that we're putting two black businesses against each other, and they bumping heads. And both of these organizations do great work in the community. I think I know Ms. B is doing wonderful things over in the area where she's located. Then you have Nelson Heights, which is in the most underserved area that's working with kids. I've been out there myself to see the kids playing in the playground. So my thing is this: if we're going to do certain things, we need to be more proactive than reactive in Newton County, because we do things on this board based on emotions and feelings, and that's what it looks like. And so if you've been giving someone appropriation for 15 years and now you're doing a deep tissue audit and it has not been done, well, what about the 15 years? And my thing, and as I stated, I said everyone needs to be audited. Quasi, whatever it may be, they are still nonprofits getting money from this county. Everybody needs to be audited, everyone. These are taxpayers' dollars that are given to everybody that these taxpayers pay. This is taxpayers' dollars. I'm a taxpayer. I was a taxpayer for 16 years before I became a commissioner. I want to see what they're doing. So I think everybody in this county needs to be audited. Even if you have to do audits on your commissioners to make sure we're accountable for what we're doing in this, I don't have a problem with that, because you're not going to find no kickbacks and no sidebacks from me. So I think that everything in this county needs to be audited. We have to stop operating on emotions, and that's what we do here as this board, and it has to stop.
Go ahead. Well, my final comment on this is that Mr. Sanchez was working for the county, because Anthony didn't sign anything, because he was not going to sign any document, because he knew that what they were proposing or who they were proposing was not right. Because on December 22nd, Mr. Sanchez came to the community center, and he was telling us, myself and Ms. Browland, he was telling us that, well, this is what the county want me to do. And I said, the county? I said, I thought that we were supposed to get somebody to kind of represent us. But anyway, make a long story short, and hopefully it'll make my case. This is the county purchasing right here. And what it says, it got his business address and everything on it. But what it says on it is that what department within the county will you be conducting business with? And he put in big bold letters. He said the Board of Commissioners on behalf of Nelson Heights. The Board of Commissioners hired that man. We didn't hire him. And then to further state that,
when it came down to him receiving, I guess he already got it, his final pay, $7,000 ahead, $15,000 for the audit, for maybe $30,000 of appropriations that he was given, not the prior year, but the year before that one, $30,000, $15,000 for that. They wanted Councilman Henderson to sign it to give him the money, and he refused to do it. He said, I'm not gonna sign no paper for somebody that the board sent over here to do an audit that we wasn't even comfortable with. I had asked Brittany, I had asked you, said, what about Mr. Benefield, the same one that it did on Washington Street? And you said, well, I tried. Well, you didn't tell me that person, through Miss Jackie, our clerk. She said, I tried, but somehow or another, they couldn't get him. Well, when I got in contact with Mr. Benny Phillips, he said he would have. He would have did it. So what I'm saying is this. Don't take it out on my community if you don't like me. And I'm not talking about you, Brittany, if you don't like me. For 4 years and a half, the Board of Commissioners did a forensic audit, paid $240,000 plus additional $10,000 going passed by my yard with an old big van and sent out in the community to see had I moved it. Said he was moving it, and they spent all that 4.5 years. They put it in a seal saying that I had stole 3 rolls of toilet paper and some broccoli. And for 4.5 years, they investigated me. I have never stole anything from anybody. Thank you.
Commissioner Sanders.
I just have one
Guys.
last question. Brittany, how much because I know the board voted to pay for these audits, so that's taxpayers' dollars, and want to be transparent. How much each one of these audits cost? One for Washington Street that the taxpayers had to pay for, and the one for Nelson Heights?
The one for Washington Street was $12,000, the one for Nelson Heights was $15,000.
This is why I say we need standard operating procedures in place. We are wasting taxpayers' dollars.
So I'd like to remind the board that last year, as part of the budget process, the board directed that these nonprofits obtain 3-year audit reports. And that is what's been presented to you today, is a 3-year audit report. And I think what Brittany is asking is, I think she's saying, here is the audit report for Nelson Heights. There's not been any funding to Nelson Heights pending that audit report, and she is seeking instructions from the board as to what to do next. I think it's accurate to say that the audit requirement was a new requirement this year. I don't think that's ever been asked before, but this board directed that to be done. So now we need this board to instruct Brittany as to whether or not to resume the appropriations, to not resume the appropriations, to resume the appropriations with conditions, whatever it is that this board elects to do. I think she's sitting and waiting on those instructions.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to move forward with the appropriation based on the stipulations that Councilman Henderson stated that they were going correct based on the audit. Due to this audit being a new audit, that we will move forward, and now that Nelson Heights knows what they need for the following, I guess, are we going to do this? Are we paying $12,000 every year? I need to make sure before we do this.
We definitely need direction on that.
So I don't think we need to be paying I don't believe the taxpayers want us to pay $15,000 per person per audit. That's $30,000 out of taxpayers' dollars to be going towards some youth programs or something for our seniors or something. The bus that the seniors just got, that could have been for that. So I don't believe we need to move. I guess, let me get direction before I make this. Are we just making a motion for the appropriation first before I move forward with another motion?
The only motion that this agenda item requests is whether or not to resume the current fiscal year appropriations for Nelson Heights.
Okay. I want, my motion is to move forward with the current appropriation for Nelson Heights and Washington Street, because I know we paused their appropriation, and Washington Street, to move forward with the stipulations that Councilman Henderson stated that they were going to correct.
Is there a second? Second. All in the discussion? All in favor? All opposed? All
I'm
opposed?
not totally opposed to it.
Are you abstaining?
But I would like to talk about it.
Okay. I open up for discussion.
Okay, can I talk
Well,
now?
no, so
Okay.
we need to, that motion ain't passed, so we need to get a substitute motion on the floor.
Why don't you just open for discussion, if there's questions that need to be resolved before we make a motion.
Okay, questions?
Okay. All right, some of the deficiencies that you listed out there, and Anthony, JC, they're very easy business things to deal with. They're not hard. But it's like anything else, if you don't know how that works, what that process is, it seems to be complicated, like your I-9 forms, your contractor stuff, your 1099s, payroll, invoices, things like that. All those things are relatively easy for people that have a background in business. I don't think it's in the county's best interest to shut down Nelson Heights, because what will we do with it? We own the building, and y'all are providing some programs out there, and it's coming up with school about to be out, and I think y'all have some after-school programs. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And there are some, y'all are doing a lease with it to a church, I think?
Each Sunday, yeah.
Okay. So I don't think, the building itself and some of the programs you're doing have a value to the county. So I don't think it's in our best interest to close it down. My question would be, would it be reasonable to say, let's extend your time period for 60 days or whatever time you need, and in that 60-day period, you work with a consultant or somebody that has a business background, maybe somebody in the community that can come in there and help you get these things in line, and maybe, as Commissioner Sanders says, you need a standard operating procedure. I agree with her on that, on how these things should be done. And then, in the meantime, I know that y'all are probably out of money, probably broke, because we ain't giving you none. But it is our building, so you've got a refrigerator, you got air conditioning, you got things like that. What if the county paid your utility bill for the next 2 months, and then we keep it operating, keep it going, and once you get some of these other issues addressed, and and Brittany's satisfied that what you've done is correct, or we have an auditor or an accountant or somebody look at it, then when we issue the appropriation, any money that we've advanced you, we take it back out of the appropriation for that. Would that be reasonable?
Yeah,
Could I say something, if I may?
Because it's just not in our interest to close it down. It's not, I don't want to.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it's not, I don't think it's anybody's intent to leave the children of Washington Street Community Center and Nelson Heights Community Center with no after-school programming or any of the programming they've provided. That's why I say we pause both. Washington Street, in my opinion, is the roadmap for all of us in terms of nonprofits. In my opinion, I've always said that. But I'm hoping Nelson Heights can follow in those footsteps. But I can't, as a commissioner, I cannot ignore the findings of this audit report, or whatever this is. And let me read. Let me just read. The material deficiencies above create a material likelihood for material misstatements, fraud, or errors to occur. And on the significant deficiencies, duplicate check numbers and checks not written in sequence. Not good.
To speak on that?
And then we've talked about standard operating procedures, lack of very basic standard operating procedures. The significant deficiencies above create a significant likelihood of significant mistakes, fraud, or errors to occur in the financial statements if not rectified. I want to see this low-hanging fruit rectified. I would agree to what Commissioner Cowan suggested, that we don't cut off Nelson Heights Community Center, but we require both Nelson Heights and Washington Street to check the box that we voted a couple years ago. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner, hold on, Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. Well, I think part of, well, I won't say problem, you're talking about over $2,000 a month light bill for the kids too. You're talking about the computer services through Spectrum, which averages about $500 a month. You're talking about the alarm system that you have to have in the building that in case you got to have two lines. In case there's a fire, that we'll call the fire department. And you're talking about a security cameras that for the basketball field and the other fields that we have out there. So you're talking about a lot of money. And I mean, you're talking about, if you average out $2,000 a year, $500, another $275 for the security system, you're talking about way over the appropriation that you're talking about, that y'all giving us so much. And the fact that we have survived over a year with about a year, maybe a year. Without it, I think we did a really good job. And I just want to, first of all, thank the community for stepping up and trying to do something to have a place for their kids. So if you said what you said, 60 days, then you're talking about maybe about $10,000. I won't say $10,000. Brittany can count better than I can. So you're talking about $2,000 a month. You're talking about a $500 Spectrum bill. You're talking about $275 a month bill from Homeland Security cameras. And you're talking about another, $20 a month for the monitoring of the fire department. I mean, for monitoring in case there's a fire, so they automatically call the fire department. So you're talking about a substantial amount of money. That's the reason why we don't have any excess money, because we're paying with all the bills for that time. You kind of run out. And for somebody, I mean, you can say there's a whole lot of deficiencies. If all the money they receive are checks, somebody had to write a check or money order and deposit straight in the bank. That's where Sanchez, y'all auditor, went to the bank and pulled the records of the checks that had been spent. Now, should it may have been kept a little bit better? Probably so. But what I'm saying is that there was nobody that we wanted. We wanted the same person that did Washington Street, like what you said, Stan. You said, that's the catalyst. And we was after that catalyst to do ours, but y'all refused it. And they only gave, what was it, 3 months, it wasn't an audit, but it was 3 months or something that you gave, review. Thank you. Thank you. A 3-month review that you gave them and approved it and gave them the money, and you persisted on the audit for us. In fact, when Patrick, I got the email right here. When Patrick said, so though they got to have an audit, Patrick knew then when he was telling Miss Brittany that they had to have an audit, he knew then that they hadn't did it for Washington Street. She should have known if she didn't know. But he knew then. Patrick knew that. He knew that because they had gave them the money with a 3-year review. And I'm not mad at Washington Street. As a child, I ran up the hill to Washington Street and holes in my shoes. But what I'm saying, it was different. It all made a difference. In fact, at the last meeting when we talked, I remember somebody from this board said that we should go by and look at it. It'll be all right. and that was fine. But there's got to be some kind of standard. And then lastly, and I'm gonna just be quiet and do what you want to do. Lastly, down at Berry Tree Farm, my friend Mr. Berry, he's in District 4 now, and most of us know him. He gave the Christmas tree to the vice president because he came over here and told him. We were all very appreciative, and we thanked him for doing that. But the county pays all the bills. He take all the rentals, and there's no reporting of any kind. No reporting. I don't have that read here, but I got that in my car, and I'll be glad to share it with anybody who wants to see it tomorrow at our town hall meeting. And so I'm saying there's too many double standards. And maybe, you know, I go back now, I'm sorry, I feel like a broke record, Mr. Chairman. Maybe I go back and say maybe something they don't like me for whatever reason. And that's fine, I can take it. But don't take it out on the seniors and the kids and try to imply that maybe somebody was stealing or not doing what they're supposed to do. There was something that Mason should have done. And then, you know, they should have helped us a little bit more than what they was helping. Now, for the W-9 and stuff, Martin knew that Mason was doing it for them. He knew that. Thank you. Commissioner Sanders.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. I completely forgot about Almond Community Center, which is ran by a for-profit. Has anything been turned in for Almond Community Center?
Not that I'm aware of.
So we are not aware of how much money is collected at Almond Community Center, if checks or whatever's done. We're not aware of anything that's happening at Almond Community Center, because I've been asking this question since I've been on the board. So we have a for-profit running a community center, setting prices, collecting money on county property, and we in an audit.
Their information doesn't flow through my department.
And I know it's
so
not,
I'm
it's not your,
that.
it's operations, it's not you, because you're just the finance person, it's operations. So this is the double standard that we're constantly having, the double standard. We have to make sure, if we're gonna do it for one, we gotta do it for all. How much did we allot, since you guys came back and said that Washington Street wasn't supposed to do a review, they were supposed to do an audit, but they were given their funding. How much was already allocated?
I think they got 9 months of funding, roughly, this is just a guesstimate, I think around 33,000.
So we already, and this has nothing to do with Washington Street, both organizations are doing great, but looking at the double standard, you wanna make sure you do this, if you're gonna do it for one, and you just said it didn't do their audit, and by the way, I spoke to Ms. B today, who also said it's hard getting an audit. Majority of your auditors are booked for tax season. She has called about 6 or 7 of them. All of them said they don't even have time. So we're holding out on their money because they can't even get an auditor. They can't find an auditor. So we're holding out on this youth program in an underserved community on their funding, and they can't even get an auditor during tax season. And again, you have one community center who has not even been offered any funding, who also did a review, going back to do the audit, but we gave them no money. Then you have a community center that's ran by a for-profit that hadn't turned in anything. So we have to look at that. And when I mean about standard operating procedures, I didn't mean for the actual organizations. I was talking about the county does not have a standard operating procedure to give to those we're allocating funding to say, this is what we want, X, Y, Z. We just put this in place. So we really don't have any boxes to check because we've never done this for 15 years. We've been giving this money to people for 15, 20 years, and there's never been checks and balances. So now we want to come back and say, oh, checks and balances. And I'm hearing that these were 2 different auditors. So that's another issue. So if we're going to do this for one, everyone, we got to do it for all. And if you have for-profits running county business, that's the problem. Thank you.
Commissioner Cowan.
Thank you. And I agree with Commissioner Sanders as regarding everything needs to be treated the same. I'm not aware of how these things are done, but I think in the contracts, I think there's some provisions in there, but having a standard operating procedure in our operational manual is probably a good thing. Do you have a checklist of what needs to be done for setup for any operations that say, you know, I-9 form, W-4, things like that? Do you have any kind of checklist?
That
Because
we would,
I don't
that we would
think
supply
they
somebody
know,
else.
I don't think they know all the forms that has to be done. And the auditor makes the assumption that everybody knows what they're doing. But a lot of times, I mean, I'm a lawyer, and a lot of times I didn't know the right form wasn't filled out. You know, and I can't expect a layperson sometimes to understand everything that needs to be done. So my question would be, is there some sort of form that we have in place at the county that's kind of like a checklist that maybe we could provide them with that might help them?
I'm sure we can come up with something.
Okay. Anthony, can you get with Brittany one day?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with it, I'm fine.
And, you know, invoices, checks, how those things should be done.
Yeah, and that's why that's why we hired Mason, you know, in hopes of they can help us with that operation.
He's not writing the checks, and he's not getting the invoices. Somebody in your organization is, right?
Repeat that again. I didn't catch that.
I said he's not writing the checks, and he's not receiving invoices.
I'll write the checks. So everything
Correct.
that
But do you get an invoice from somebody, or you just?
it's more so
Somebody
right
says,
according to what
"Hey,
needs
I
to be
need
done.
$25," and you just give it to them?
Oh no, it don't work like that. I mean, it has to
Okay.
be something needs to be
So
done.
there has to be some sort of
Right.
record, receipt, some sort of
Mhm.
invoice. Okay.
Right. Just to put this out here, I mean, most of the county funds, it covers simple operations. You're talking about utility, Wi-Fi, that 3,000, that's going right there. So everything that we fund outside of that is through rental funds. And so we can always present that to you.
I would suggest there's somebody in the neighborhood down there that has a good business background that could assist y'all. I mean, y'all may know them better than I do. I don't know anybody that could, but somebody could just come in there and say, okay, you really need to do it this way. And then you can set up your parameters how you want to do that. But I guess I go back to my question. 60 days, would that be enough to get that done?
I mean,
If
I
the
hope so. If
county-
I need extension, I'll come back to you.
If the county continues paying you utilities and all the other things that.
Just commit to paying you, keep the building operating, so pay the
keeping
utility bills.
operation
Yeah.
going, because it's a county building. We've
Right,
got to
yeah.
keep it going. Right?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, y'all are just managing it or using it.
So if we get this straight, excuse me, can y'all, Commissioner, get this straight, all the bills, we talking about the utility bills, we talking about the surveillance, the cameras, we talking about the call, the bill for the system that's gonna call the fire department. We're talking about the Wi-Fi, talking about the phone bill, which is all connected up together, phone bills and all those, all the bills to maintain that building, that we bring it to Brittany and she'll pay it up until we find somebody or get somebody in place to handle those little, whatever.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So is that good? Propose that motion, because it got to be paid. What? Propose the motion to pay all the bills.
Hold on, guys.
Made a
Guys,
motion.
listen. Come on, man. Y'all
Have it?
make a motion. Yeah, let's make a motion. Let's make a
Okay.
motion.
I'll make a motion. It's on.
Okay.
All right. I'll make a motion that the county allow Nelson Heights Community Center, that organization that runs that, 60 days to basically work on their business operational procedures. And in the meantime, the county will continue paying the necessary utilities, insurance, things like that. And that way they can continue their their child programs or whatever. I make that motion.
I would like there to be clarity and a list of the exact bills that the county is responsible for, because I think lack of clarity is why we are where we are right now.
Okay, I'll make I'll clean that
So-
up. any bill that's necessary for the operation of that building, utilities, insurance, internet, security. Yeah, phone bill, anything like that. Can't think of them all right now. Operational things before the building. And then they can continue with the programs for the next 60 days. After 60 days, if you have complied with everything, and she's satisfied and everybody's satisfied, then we'll issue the appropriation less what we've already advanced you.
Is there a second?
And before you do it, I want to clarify, when you say satisfied everything, are you referring to the deficiencies and weaknesses, which were those bullet points in the audit report?
Yes, some of them I didn't really agree with, but I didn't do the audit.
Right. Is there, come on guys, no, is there a second?
Well, is Patrick adding on stuff? Because some of them I didn't agree
No.
with either.
No, he just cleared up.
I was just asking, yeah.
He just cleared up something.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Cowan, second by Commissioner Sanders. All in favor? I pass 5-0.
So Councilman, bring out your bills.
Brittany, thank you so much.
$2,000 light bill, take Miss Brittany and everything.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brittany.
Chairman, the next item on the agenda is item number 18, Recreation and/or Purchasing, request for approval for Qualite Sports Lighting Contract for City Pond Complex. Mr. Jeff Prine is our project manager. It is budgeted for SPLOST 23, $430,516 is the cost.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. We put out an RFP for design build services to retrofit 6 of the fields at the city pond with new LED lighting, sports lighting systems. We received 2 proposals that were evaluated both for their qualifications and the systems they proposed and also on their cost. We are coming to you tonight recommending that we move forward with Qualite, but I do want to put into the record that the second bid was from Musco, and it was for $579,900.
Thank you. I seek a motion, Commissioners. So moved. Can I get a second? Second. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Pass 4-1.
Mr. Chair, we're at item number 18A, the alcohol resolution, open container on the square. We have Mr. Ken Malcolm that will be presenting on behalf of the City of Covington.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you so much for an opportunity to speak with you tonight. Tonight, the City of Covington Community Development Department, which I head, is asking for a resolution for a 90-day trial period for open container in the Square Park area of our square. Last night, the City of Covington Council approved unanimously a 90-day trial period to allow open container in a section of our historic district. And what I'm showing you here tonight, and you should have this in a packet as well, is an area within our historic district which connects 9 different establishments that can distribute alcohol, can sell alcohol to restaurants, and other merchants that are along that path. This was, again, approved last night by council. I had asked for this to be on the agenda tonight, a period of time ago, in case it was approved, which, again, it was approved. So what is the plan? The plan is very similar to communities around the state of Georgia that are now allowing open container, in a downtown district. Our plan is limited. The plan that we proposed and was approved last night is a time period from 11 a.m. until 11 p.m. only on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings. All participants will be required to purchase a cup, which is, again, is very consistent with what's going on in communities, all around the state of Georgia that allows this. They also have to have a wristband. So the wristband is unique, and again, this is also a handout here where you can see there's a different color wristband for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. You can see this area here, and you'll notice that, again, it is a restricted area within the historic district, and what this does not include is parking lots, the parking deck is, out of concerns that, it would become, I guess, a gathering place, afterwards. Why is this being done? Why is this being done, all over the state of Georgia, the communities that surround us? It's simple. It's revenue that, when someone goes to a restaurant and they have to put in their name, and they, Mystic Grill may have a 2-hour wait. They can purchase a drink in there, in that restaurant, and then they could walk to other downtown businesses. They can shop while they're waiting on their table. This is, the common practice in many other communities. The reason this is being brought to you tonight is, in the year that I've been in this position, we meet monthly with our downtown merchants, and they have asked that we bring this to you. This, again, it was brought to council first, and then to you tonight. Now, where do people walk? Well, they typically walk, in the sidewalk areas, but, we are in a unique situation where, in the middle of, the downtown area is the green space that is owned by the county. So, in these areas, in these other cities where there is green space, where there might be concerts, gatherings, it is allowed to purchase an alcoholic beverage and then sit in that area to maybe watch a concert or something like that. So this would require county approval if we are to go forward. So this is why we have brought to you tonight the resolution asking that you consider this, discuss this, to see if Newton County wants to go forward.
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Edwards, and then Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Malcolm. So the wristbands and the open containers are cups, which need, if we approve this, a Newton County logo on one side, by the way. But if the wristbands and the cup, or people carrying the cup, will be confined to those yellow and pink areas, is that correct?
The yellow area, the pink area is actually that's supposed to be red, and it's supposed to be kind of an off-limits area. This is because there's a parking lot there, and the potential for, crowds gathering there. So this would be an off-limit area. Where you see the stop signs there would be signage there, making it clear that you're about to exit what would be a consumption district, and they would be clear that they'd be in violation if they exited that area with the cup.
So also, and I had a copy of the resolution, but now I can't find it. So within that resolution, does it state that the square, traffic to the square will be cut off ever, or is that a?
That needs to the square itself, the green
Auto
space.
Traffic around the square. My concern with this before was, we seem to be more congested out there now, right? Would the square be cut off to autos? I know we have a shortage of parking spots in the city. So was it any consideration given to shutting down the square for these type events?
No, the square will be closed periodically throughout the spring and summer for special events. We have an event on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, where there's going to be a band playing. mariachi band, traditional Mexican dancers will be performing there, on the concrete pad. We will be closing the square for that night, but just on a regular basis, closing it on the nights designated, no, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. What is our ordinance as far as on county property? For example, I know that at Gators Plantation, they can sell beer with a vendor. So I know that at Turner Lake you cannot. Even for a wedding, I know that anywhere at Nelson Heights or any other county facility or grounds, alcohol cannot be served on them now. So, and I guess this is to Patrick. We just do we ignore the ordinance that we have about no alcohol on county property, or what's the legal situation?
Yeah, you're right. Your current ordinance permits alcohol only at Gaithers. The resolution before you would authorize the outside consumption of alcohol within the square park during this 90-day period. So if you approve this resolution, you will authorize folks to consume their beverages on the square. If not, they won't. Right?
Yes. And so I guess the question that I asked, and I live here and I walk out here and around the square, and if somebody's drinking, they take it on in the square too and drink. I wouldn't say nothing. I don't think the city Covington police would say anything. They go drinking anyway. But my point being is that if we can't incorporate in to Turner Lake for a wedding some wine, or we can't incorporate into Nelson Heights for a wedding, the ones that have wedding, or Washington Street, do we have a wedding, they have a licensed vendor, then we just open it up. We should open it up for everybody who may want it. And that's my concern. And another concern is that you go over on Ivy Street, if you go over on Lee Street, back on the areas, once you pass by the Washington Street and go back in the neighborhood, the people who drinking like that could be locked up for public drunk. If they were drinking and walk and stroll over that way, then they could be locked up by the city of Covington Police Department for being public drunk, if they choose to do that. So I just have a little bit of concern about, first of all, our ordinance, and secondly, about in the neighborhood, and how it would affect the citizens in the neighborhood, who some of them regularly drink, regularly walk the street back up in there. But I just have a concern about that. Thank you.
Commissioner Sanders.
I just have one concern. I don't know, because part of it is city, and I know you're former law enforcement as well, Mr. Malcolm. But have y'all had a conversation with the sheriff office? Because if something occurs now that we're adding alcohol, then you got to make sure manpower and so forth that occurs. So the sheriff will be handling anything on county property. So I would think a discussion would need to be had with law enforcement to see what your process is going to be in place to handle it. Because that's what I haven't heard yet. I'm not saying I'm against it, but I haven't heard anything in regards to safety, or heard the sheriff's part or even the police chief's part in this.
I've discussed it, previously with Chief Cotton, and Chief Cotton acknowledges there would need to be conversations, with the sheriff, because this is county property.
Yeah.
There is a city officer cannot enforce a county ordinance there on those grounds, but there could be discussions between the two to determine how they would deal with issues involving this. Again, it's unique. This is unique because again, we're city and county
right.
having to work together on this to determine what is best. This is something that obviously during a trial period, if there's any issues that come up in this area that would be discussed and reported. And I'm sorry I didn't get to this point, is that with your permission, I would come back in late July and report to you, if this is approved, what issues have law enforcement had, any issues at all, any spike in criminal activity or reported activity. This would be something that would, obviously need to be discussed. So it is something that is, of course, a concern, and it's a typical concern of every community that does this for the first time. I've talked to other police chiefs, law enforcement officials from other communities. There is a common fear that it's going to we're just going to have drunk people, laying out in the street. Where that is a concern, that is a fear, but data does not support that. Recently spoke with Monroe Chief of Police. He said the same thing professionally, and we've been doing this since I think 2016. Forgive me if I'm wrong on the date. They have not had any professional issues, associated, with this. So that's obviously something that the city and county would have to work together on to determine if approved. And again, this is only a 90-day trial period to evaluate the effectiveness of it. Does it work? Is it safe for this community? Is this good for business? Is this good for the downtown merchants? I can tell you with great confidence that nearly 100% of them want to see this move forward, to give them an opportunity to see what it could do, for their bottom line. In other communities, it has worked well in that not just the establishments, and I mentioned 9 locations here, right outside here, on a square, but not just those locations, but the merchants as well benefit from this type of project. So, again, I've been asked to bring it forward. That's what I'm doing tonight. We have researched it. Mm-hmm. This is a template that has worked in other communities. I can send all of you it's a Rome study. It's a Rome, Georgia study. It's an independent study from several communities around the state, and there are comments on there from community leaders, mayors, councilmen, commissioners on this, and it has been overwhelmingly supportive that it helps small businesses, and as far as we know, to our knowledge, that there has not been one community to repeal this after it was put in place.
I think that I wasn't finished, Mr. Chairman. My only concern, like I said, I agree with businesses need to make money, and I know alcohol is a big portion of their business with restaurants and being in their industry. I'm not against that. My only concern is I would like for both entities, the sheriff's department and the city, to come together with a plan, because you don't want it to fail. You said the trial period. You want your trial period to work. So you want to make sure there's a process in place with both law enforcement, so if it does work, that it can continue. We don't want to have issues as far as crime and somebody come out there shooting and you don't have enough officers out there. Then we're like, no, shut it down. It's not going to happen ever again, because when they have a law enforcement process, again, standard operating procedure in place. So that's my only concern with that. And just to go back to what Commissioner Henderson said about the code, if we're going to approve this, then we have to look at the other properties, because it's not fair if you have Turner Lake, who's having events, and people who are having receptions and weddings, and they can't have alcohol there as well for a wedding, or various locations, Nelson Heights, Washington Street, and they're renting out, and that's one of the things they can't utilize or get additional funding, just like a business getting additional funding because they don't have a permit for alcohol. So if we do it for one, we got to make sure we look at every entity in the county, or nobody can have alcohol permits.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question was along the lines of policing, and I think you have pretty much answered that particular question. So, because I think my biggest concern as well is wanting to just make sure that we're able to control the environment. I know this is something new for our community, so we don't really know what's going to happen. We want to make sure that we're not having any fights or brawls because there are individuals that are over-consuming, making sure that we're not having additional potential drunk driving accidents because of it. And I know you said you've done some research in some other areas to kind of understand, but I think my biggest concern was policing, And so that's going to be a shared responsibility from our Covington Police Department and our Newton County Sheriff's Department will share that on those 3 days, that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, to making sure that those that are outside with open containers have the wristbands, making sure they have the right color wristbands, and making sure that they have the right open containers. So that would be a shared responsibility. Is that what you're saying?
It is a shared responsibility in one area that we, when I say we, I was a police officer for 37 years, so it's hard for me not to say we, that the City of Covington Police Department cannot enforce, the consumption. But I can tell you from my 37 years of experience, I've answered hundreds, thousands of calls on this town square, working, on, in the blessing of the county and the sheriff's department to answer calls for service. So that, it would not be something that typically, you would have to bring in a sheriff's deputy from maybe the north part of the western portion and get them off the road. There are police officers close by that have and will continue to respond to calls for service, on the square. I've worked 36 years of 4th of July events on the town square. The city police department has always been very responsive and worked on your behalf, on those grounds.
And with the local businesses that are going to be selling these beverages, would they be able, are they going to be in a position to provide, like, say, maps such as this to guide those individuals to say, okay, if you are purchasing an open container and you're going outside of the establishment, these are the areas that you can actually go into. So will they be reinforcing that as well?
Education is critical on this. This is something that, again, anything that's new, you're going to have to kind of oversaturate, information. So, yes, absolutely, there would be trainings there. We're going to provide this map in another form, an easier form to read. Kind of, you are here, don't go outside this district. That's something that the servers would be asked to communicate before they, distribute the cup. We will use social media. We will use, and I say we, our office will be responsible for getting, making sure the education, for everyone, is done correctly, and that trash cans have, at the bordering areas of this would have signage saying that you cannot go beyond this point. Here's your opportunity to dispose of your cup. So yes, that is critical for the, I guess if you want to call it the success of this project, that everyone is educated. The question I get a lot is, well, what are people just going to be, we're going to see so many drunks now. Is this going to increase, drunk people in our community? Well, I'll say, and I believe this was stated earlier by, one of the owners, someone is more likely to get intoxicated if they remain in the business and they are, I don't know,
at the bar,
harder alcohol, where this is something that people, that you're just giving them the opportunity to walk around this community in a tight area that you see here and shop or sit on, and if you, approve this, if they want to sit out there and listen to a concert. We've got 7 events scheduled during this trial period that we could, carefully evaluate whether or not this is good for our community, and that's what we'll do.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Cowell.
Thank you. Ken, you may have mentioned this, but what days are you talking about this happening?
Yeah, this is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, from 11 a.m. until 11 p.m.
Okay.
This would be basically a cutoff at 11. Our businesses, may close at midnight. They would not be allowed to at midnight at a last call grab a cup and a wristband and then leave. They would have to. This is designed to again to be distributed before closing time.
Now, it's my understanding the city owns all the sidewalks up there.
Yes, sir. That's my understanding as well.
So y'all's ordinance or y'all's trial period includes them walking out on the sidewalks and everything like that?
Yes, sir. Sidewalks, but we're excluding parking lots and parking. Well, it's common that a parking deck would be excluded, but that would be outside, the district. So again, this is a more confined area than the downtown historic district.
Okay. But they can walk around, do whatever they want to do. Now, inside the square, if we allow it, who's going to clean that up?
The city cleans it now. Someone that works through our department actually comes out and cleans, empties the garbage on weekends and during the week as well. And that is a concern, that is there going to be an increased amount of garbage. So what we are prepared to do is place additional trash receptacles. Again, my plan is to focus on the outskirts of where this would be, where people would be leaving. They'd get to the border and say, oh gosh, I got to do something with this cup. There needs to be a way to dispose of it right then. So that's something that, when people ask me, well, what are your concerns? That is a concern, is what is the trash going to look like, and do we have the staff to be able to handle that?
So I know one of the events that you plan on doing this on is going to be 4th of July with
No, sir.
10,000 people up there, right?
No, sir. That is not. It falls on a Tuesday. So
that would not be.
We cannot. Yeah, we cannot get us. I believe that you cannot get a special use permit because of that being a holiday. But no, that is not a schedule. That would not be one of the scheduled dates.
Do we have assurances of that? I mean, I can see the city council saying, well, hey, everybody's going to have a good time on the 4th of July. Let's let them live it up.
I think if this body says not to do it, it's not going to happen.
If we say not to do it,
yeah.
we won't
have it on the what I'm saying on the
sidewalks.
square. I mean, you wouldn't allow it, if you're
But
saying
we don't have
no.
no authority over the sidewalks.
Right, I understand.
And that many people up there, you're not going to be able to control it anyway.
I agree with you. I do not think that would be in the community's best interest.
The thing we can do, if we say we're going to give you let you have 90 days, they can come back and say, well, we're going to give them a special use permit. We got 90 days from the county, and y'all go do what you want to do.
Well, the special use permits would come from my office, and I'll give you my word that will not happen. We will not ask for a special use permit on July 4th.
You promise?
Yes, sir.
It's easy. I mean, never mind. Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner Sanders.
I just have two questions, and I'm going to stay off of it. Commissioner Cowan kind of took one of my questions in regards to cleanup. I was concerned because it's on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. How strenuous are you going to be with cleanup on Thursday night, because county business still is operational on Friday? So the worst thing is maybe they may have some visitors come in, and the county is looking like, I'm originally from New Orleans, for those who don't know, and I grew up around Bourbon Street. I know what happens on Bourbon Street when people are drinking. But there's a lot of security. That's the whole point about it. When we have events, there's a lot of security in the city of New Orleans because of the alcohol, people having a good time. Like I said, when I go home, I'm on Bourbon Street, okay? I'm gonna tell you that. But have a good time, and because of that, but the security is enforced. It's truly enforced. But they have a plan. So that's why my concern is, I'm not against it, but I want to make sure that both of entities, the sheriff's office signed off on it, and you guys have got to the table to have that safety in place. Because that's my only concern with this being something new in Newton County. I think it will be great in the long run, but you gotta have that safety in place. Also protection for the restaurants, because somebody gets out of order in the restaurants, you gotta have that security in place to make sure that they're there for those amount of people. Because how many people are you allowing to be in this area at a certain time?
There's not a certain number. I mean,
Exactly.
Depending on events, there could be, for the lighting of the square recently, we estimated we had approximately 7,000 people. For the 4th of July, 10,000 people. We don't anticipate anything close to that. On a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, you may have like this weekend, for instance, there was 1,500 people in Covington to participate in a Vampire Diaries convention. And Saturday night, if you came through the square, there were 500 that were sitting out on your lawn watching television. We had a big screen and they were watching episodes, of the show. That was easily managed, by, extra patrols. But there's there was no alcohol. Yeah. There was no alcohol there, and not showing how many. I'm not sure how many of those folks would be that could have purchased alcohol. But there was, it is a, that is obviously a concern that, we would carefully evaluate during, the trial period. Everyone that has, had a trial period, every community that's tried this has made slight adjustments, because each community is different. There's, we don't have a parking deck, but we do have areas of parking where maybe it's not, lit well, and, so we want to, we don't want those areas to be included. So I do feel like we have, the police department, is okay with this, who would respond to 99% of the calls,
So you haven't talked to Sheriff?
No, that was a conversation that, needs to occur between the agency heads to have an agreement, but this has been always an agreement that, the city police respond to the square, to any issues on the square. The only issue, again, and it's a valid, point, is it's the ordinance, is it's a county ordinance. My time as a police professional, I could only enforce one unless I was maybe deputized or something, or given, those permissions. But there are other things. If someone is on the square and they're intoxicated, we can still, make an arrest, for public intoxication. If they, obviously get in a vehicle and they are beyond the legal limit, the city of Covington, handles, all of that. But I agree, the conversation needs to, if approved,
I'm on board, but I believe out of courtesy, it needs to be done. When are you planning on starting this?
Good question. I'm sorry I left that out. This would begin May 4th and end July 27th.
So we have time basically to come back and maybe approve it for the first meeting. Out of courtesy, because we are the county and the sheriff represents the county, just like you all represent, well, you're not on the force anymore, but when you were on the force, you represented the city council. So they've had the opportunity to talk to their law enforcement agency. Our sheriff hasn't had the opportunity to even see this. So out of courtesy, it needs to be provided to our sheriff's office. That's my only concern. I'm on board with it, but I just want to make sure out of courtesy, both entities have had that conversation and had a plan, because I don't see any plan in place in regard, and I know you do what you do, but I don't see a plan in place for security. That's my only concern. The alcohol and stuff is not a concern. Like I said, I'm from New Orleans. So,
right.
But there has to be a talk for those two.
Yeah, it's really incident driven too, as far as security that would be, at an event. For instance, like May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, there will be police personnel, there on the square, acting in a security role, assigned to that area during that time. But I do understand what you're saying, and the conversation needs to occur.
So we're not, I know we're at 10:18 now. I apologize, residents. So we're not doing that. I would like to just table this until you have the conversation for the first meeting in May, and we can approve it. Y'all can go ahead with your planning. Make sure once that you have everything in place so we can prove it so y'all can move forward. Plan however you need to have the conversation with Sheriff Brown, and then we come back the first meeting in May to approve or whatever the Board of Commissioners want to do. That would be my motion.
Is there a second? I'm sorry, Commissioner Sanders have a motion that we table this until the first board meeting.
I had a question before she made the motion.
She made a motion, put a motion on the floor. Yeah. Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay.
If I could mention this, and I certainly understand your, I'm sorry, I don't want to speak out of turn.
Hold on one second. There's been motion by Commissioner Sanders and second by Commissioner Henderson. Let me get Commissioner Henderson first.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. Remember we had some good times, you know, when we went out to the Dale Carnegie stuff, and I was trying to learn how to talk a little bit, and you was too, and those were some really good times in the early part of my life. But the concern that I have is that the fact that all we setting the precedents, that we'll be able, for people to be able to, I know it's been some people want to use the fields, and we granted to them, and I have never known to have a Mother's Day celebration the way we celebrate, and you're not going to have no alcohol. So there got to be some security of sort there, and I'm talking about over at Cousin. But my point I'm trying to make it is this, is that if we don't have an ordinance, then I think we don't need to be messing with it until we come together, have a work session to make an ordinance in order for us to use it. That was the problem we had with it last time. There was not an ordinance. And for us drinking, I mean, this being real, and I've been here my whole life. In fact, my wife told me I need to go somewhere different. Commissioner Sanders said, you better go back, you better go to New Orleans and have you there. But people going to drink on the square anyway. I see them drinking. They go over to the Mystic Grill and get them a cup and go over there and drink anyway. So I don't think the problem is hindering them from drinking. I think the problem is sending a presence throughout the county where people going to be those pop-up parties, and then it comes to security. Now, we know we never had a mass shooting in Newton County, but it's always the first time. And we should always have in the back of our mind. It's what we're having in our community that may be putting our citizens sometime at risk until we have a plan. And if we're going to approve it, if the board going to vote to approve it, there need to be a conversation between our law enforcement, Sheriff Ezel Brown,
Stacey Cotton.
Thank you. And my friend Stacy, they should have that conversation, and then we should maybe look at doing it or something.
So it's a motion on the floor to table this. Been motioned by Commissioner Sanders and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any more discussion on that, Patrick? You have something?
So I just want to point a couple of things out for the board. As I read the city's ordinance that was adopted last night, the city has approved the outside consumption of alcohol. It has excluded only the town square pending this board's approval of consumption on the town square. So if this board does nothing, or even if this board were to vote and to say, we don't want consumption on the lawn, the city could still, and I presume would still, authorize the outside consumption on the street. So the only real question, I think, for this board is whether or not you are going to authorize, as a county rule, not a law, because our ordinances have no legal effect within the city of Covington. So are you going to waive the rule that prohibits the consumption of alcohol on the lawn itself, or within the square? It's not something. It's not a law that prohibits it, and your ordinance doesn't really apply to it. It's a regulatory rule, and there's not a whole lot of enforcement mechanism. You can't cite somebody for violating a county code within the city limits. So, you don't have a whole lot of enforcement within the square as it is. But that's really the question for y'all tonight, I think, is whether or not the folks that are going to be authorized to walk around the streets can walk, sit, hang out on the square and drink their drinks as well. I think that's really the question for the board tonight.
Correct, and then also, again, the idea here is people can walk freely and go into, visit other merchants. Can they cut across the square? Can they walk across the square to say if they leave out of Social Goat and they want to go to Ridge Avenue, there's a straight path, through the square. Would it be allowed, for them to do that? Or would they have to remain, on the sidewalks to get to that location?
Any more discussion? Any more discussion? All in favor? All opposed? If the table fails, 3-2, is there another motion that someone want to put on the floor? Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Motion to approve resolution R041823.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned by, excuse me. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? All in favor? Let's do it again. All opposed? That motion failed 3-2. Is there another motion that would like to be put on the floor? The last one. Is there a motion that would like to be put on the floor?
You will put your motion back out there?
I was asked to put my motion back out. I would like to table this into the first meeting after discussion has been had with the sheriff's office and a plan been brought before the board in regards to safety. You all can continue to coordinate or whatever you have to do to get it together, and once we approve, then you can move forward with the situation. I don't believe this board's intention is trying to deny this. We just want to make sure that we're protecting our residents in Newton County.
Understand.
Is there a second to this table?
Second.
Yeah. Who did that? To the May 1st? To the May 1st board meeting. Who seconded that? Commissioner Gowan. It's been motioned by Commissioner Sanders that we table this until the first board meeting in May, and second by Commissioner Cowan. All in favor? Stand tabled until May. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I am.
I'm tired. I need to go home.
Next on the agenda is citizens' comments. This opportunity will allow citizens to make comments. You have 3 minutes to do so. If you would, please come and state your name and your address for the record, please.
Good evening. Debbie Harper, resident 100 Bear Creek Walk and president of the Newton Chamber. I was not here at the beginning of the meeting to speak in favor of the resolution you added on the open container, but I did want to encourage you to pass that. I would love to see the city and county work collaboratively on this. It was approved unanimously last night at the city. I thank Ken Malcolm and his team for the thorough research that they've done on this. And at the Chamber, our mission is to be a catalyst for business growth, which this is an economic driver, what we're looking at tonight. An advocate for businesses, that's what we do as a chamber, and a champion for a better quality of life. And this is a component of quality of life in many successful communities that we compare ourselves to. I would also like to encourage you to think about this 90-day program as a trial, because I've heard talk of restaurants that don't come into unincorporated parts of the county, and a lot of that goes back to there's no liquor by the drink in the county. That is an economic driver. So I ask you to consider this and vote for this when it comes back before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jennifer Hartman, 160 Allison Trail, and also the owner of the Social Goat here in Covington. I heard everything you guys had to say tonight. First of all, I do want to thank Ken and his team, just like Debbie did, but I do feel like it's my job as a citizen and as a major business owner, or what I feel like a major small business owner in this community, to come and speak to you. Ken has been in law enforcement for a really long time, and I've been on the square for a really long time, and I've seen a lot of not so great things happen on the square. I mean, you guys are worried about drunk drivers, but we've seen 4 accidents on, not too far from there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when no one was drinking. There's ambulance issues. There's all kinds of other issues in the county. But I will tell you, as a business owner, as one of the major providers of alcohol on the square, I promise you that we will do everything we can in our power to ensure that this is successful, that our team members are trained properly. I have already purchased ID readers to verify, fake IDs. We've already reached out to several community members and put ads out there for safety members just for my establishment that is able to stand outside, direct individuals on where to go, and also control what they have taken out. I will also remind you, I know that there is a conversation to be had, but there are people and individuals, they're doing it already. So I'm asking you to allow our county and allow our businesses to benefit from that instead of allowing them to go to the vehicle and come back to the square or whatever they're doing without our permission. And I'll be glad to give anyone my phone number that has any other questions, but I promise you from a business standpoint that we will do whatever we need to do to make the community safe and to allow them to enjoy those things. So again, I thank you guys for your time and appreciate all the thought that y'all will put into this.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Annette Alston, Newton County citizen. This is concerning the Babbers Cooper situation, and it's always been said that black people have always had to have twice the qualifications of their white counterpart before even being considered for a position. And tonight you've proven that that's not even enough. You had an opportunity to seat an apparent world-class administrator for the position of county manager. Cooper may be a nice guy. I don't know. Never met him, never met Babbers. But you have some explaining to do on this one because I don't think Newton County residents are going to sit idly by while you disrespect this management position or the residents that certainly deserve more than what Cooper has in comparison to Babbers. What's the point of even submitting resumes if the qualifications don't matter? You all seem like reasonable men when you want to be, right? I would have loved to see one of the commissioners that voted against Babbers lay out the reason that Cooper was chosen as eloquently as Ms. Sanders laid out why you should have voted for Babbers. We're confused. The people of Newton County are deeply confused. Please explain. And if you can't, please rescind your vote and reconsider Babbers. Mr. Edwards, you shook your head when Ms. Sanders said, you all don't want another educated black woman connected to this board. And I'm guessing that you thought that was inflammatory. But when the media shines light at these two sets of qualifications, what have you done? What have you done or will you do to dispel that thought? I can't help but think that if Babbers was white, and definitely if she was male, you would have apologized to Cooper and maybe created another position for him or found something else for your buddy. If it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, fix this so that there is not even the hint of racism and sexism, because that's what it looks like. And you have not shown me anything different. I am insulted. I am insulted as a black woman seeing this decision made and not understanding in any sort of way the reasoning. Come to your right mind. Do the right thing. I believe a year from now, you'll be glad you reached a little higher.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
Good evening.
My name is Howard Griggs, and I live at 55 River Shores Court, Covington, Georgia. And I was just looking over these resumes myself. Matter of fact, I worked for the federal government 36 years, 8 months, and 10 days. I used to interview people. This lady here was way more qualified than this guy here. But some of you choose to ignore that. I listen to Ms. Sanders when she speaks. She's very educated. She's very resourceful. And I think you guys are scared of that. Besides, she's a female. You're scared of that, too. Women are very loving. Give them a chance. Maybe you might learn something. I should say, if you get on this guy's coattail, you can take a ride, but you need to get on her skirt tail, and maybe you can get a ride. I was sitting here listening to what she was saying. She's very knowledgeable. What's the Mason over there? You vote every time you vote. You was a Democrat. You follow everything this gentleman here do. I remember when he came to Murray and said something about the redneck gonna jump out in me. Watch out, the redneck gonna do something. And I sat up there and thought about that. That reminded me when I was on a ship in the Navy. I was only black on that ship, and they used to talk about killing niggas and Mexicans. How you think that made me feel? And you running behind something like this, I said to myself, ain't nobody gonna never do anything to Howard Griggs. I'd die and go to hell first. But you need to stand on your own 2 feet. You follow behind this guy. This guy here a little educated, but I like him better than this one.
Guys.
I told you, Commissioner, I'll be back to finish talking to you. My name is not important. This is the Examiner report. My brand is Under Threat Nation 5.0. And I'm going to talk to, no, don't interrupt me. This is my time, man. You're going to interrupt my time. I'm reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. Let me have the floor.
Sir, can you state your name and your
I
address?
said that, Mr. Jackson.
Okay.
Under Threat Nation 5.0.
Yes, sir.
This is the Examiner report. And we're going to talk about some of the money that you're wasting and spending when the taxpayer property tax is skyrocketing. And I ask you to do something about it to save the taxpayer money. You haven't came up with a solution yet, have you? That tells us that you don't care about the taxpayer. Our taxes are skyrocketing here in Newton County. Okay, so we want to spend $430,000 on lights for a park. This is the People House that I'm standing in. And we know that this house is not in compliance with the ADA, America with Disability Act. This building is not in compliance with that act, okay? So maybe you can take some of that money and invest it in the People's House so they can have better lighting, better sound system, better cameras, so we can see who's hiding behind these prompters and these monitors. We can't even see y'all from back there. It's so dark and dimly lit. Put an LED light. They want to put them out down here in this park. We're asking you to do something about that. Then you challenged me a few weeks ago over at Murray Baptist Church about what is you doing with the ARPA fund money. And I kept saying you're giving it away to your special contributors, your donors. And tonight you proved that, $2.5 million you want to give away. That money belonged to the taxpayer of Newton County. Why not put that money back into the public and getting us tax breaks on our property? Fixing up our houses, our light, our rent. But no, you got your special donors that you want to give your money, this money to. That money belongs to us. And then I want to speak about the manager you just hired with no experience. Newton County residents, I want to come do open heart surgery on your family member. Newton County resident, I got a buddy of mine who smokes a little weed, but he still, I think he can put up to the challenge of flying a 747, take your family to California. But you're going to still put somebody inexperienced in that manager's seat who's running our county. That doesn't make sense. Why would you put inexperienced people in a seat that govern and play with the taxpayer money? What's in it for you, Mr. Edwards? What's in it for you, commissioners? Come on now. That money belongs to us. You're going to put somebody inexperienced in that seat? Hey, I can go in that seat. I don't have, he got a little bit more experience than me, but hey, we both inexperienced, okay? This Commissioner Sanders invited you to get the most qualified person to sit in that seat. No, 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 no. You're gonna try to waste taxpayer money and tell him how to run the county. Come on, man. Don't waste our money, don't waste our tax dollars like this. Oh, that van you just gave away, remember I told you to work with the community?
Time's up, sir.
Somebody would have donated that van for you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm not tall. And now for something completely different. I came up for something unrelated to any of this, but I just throw in for 5 seconds. I'm just going to throw in I do support the.
Can you give your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Scotty Scoggins. I live at 5122 Swan Street. I do support the open container, just as a side. My whole neighborhood does. We walk to the square quite a bit. But what I really came here to do, because I watch a lot of these meetings, I read the minutes, I come in here, and everybody's always negative and mean. I don't want to be that person. I just wanted to come up and thank all of the county workers that do. I did this at the city council meeting the other day. People that pick up my trash, they picked up my refrigerator, they come at 5 a.m. and sweep the streets. And I just wanted to come up and thank all the public servants for what they do, and that's it. And even though I may disagree with many of you on many things, you do put a lot of time into doing your best to try to serve the community. May not always be what we want, but you're there and we're out here. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Just want to share a little bit of history. If people know the history of when the slave was brought over here from Africa, they didn't use the slave captain to capture the slave. They used another slave. So what I'm saying tonight, you know, you have what you call the house Negro, and that's what we have here tonight. We have one. He don't care. He don't care. But one thing, buddy, they're going to throw you on the bus one day. And it's so, how do you sleep with yourself? Call yourself a minister of God. How do you sleep with yourself? You
Guys,
are
come
an
on.
evil person.
Come on, guys.
And God gonna get you one way or the other. He might not get you, but it might get your family.
Guys, listen.
So
we're not going.
So God bless you.
What we're not going to do tonight, we're not going back and forth with each other. We're not going to do that tonight. Yeah, we're not. Yeah.
Denise Williams, 1442, P.O. Box 1442, Covington, Georgia. I was here on April the 4th, and I presented to the board some documents, but I didn't go all the way thoroughly through the document because it was a 255-page document. So in the folder, you will find that as I went on, as I went on through the 255-page document, I see that Chairman Baines has he's the part owner of LATRAB with Stephanie Lindsay. He does business with the county. They presented invoices, and they were paid through Royalty Hauling. That was $2,167. And also with Royalty Hauling, they made $38,000, which that is him, his brother, and nephew business. And I also seen some of his family member cousins, they're on the vendor package as well. They made $32,000. So, Board of Commissioners, it's something wrong with this picture. It is something seriously wrong with this picture. I don't know what you all did from the last meeting with the attorney, but we need to see something. We need to see some substance here because this is over $300,000. So I'm asking this board to do an investigation on everybody on the board. You ain't got nothing to hide. Do an investigation on everybody because the document speaks for themselves. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Commissioner Epps.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to mention something that happened last weekend. There were 5 residents in my part of the county that were killed in a tragic car accident, and another one seriously injured, still in serious condition. And I just want to reiterate with our citizens that our population has gotten to the point where we can no longer afford to not be careful. It was an absolute jarring experience to me to ride by that memorial, the memorial that's now on Highway 142, and to know that's within a couple miles of my home, and my kids travel that way. My wife, I travel that way. My wife. I believe we're reaching a point in this county where we should have on all county roads it should be a double yellow line. Now I don't know that's what happened in this particular scenario. I know it was raining, and I don't know exactly what happened, but we've got to slow down, and we're reaching a point where we got to make some changes in our driving habits, myself included. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Mason. Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had the opportunity to speak with not speak, but via email with our GIS director, our tax assessor, and our tax commissioner, and I was able to get figures because that was my homework assignment. I'm going to give the detailed report tomorrow at our meeting for District 3 and 4, but I was able to see the actual amount of taxes that come from the west side of Newton County. Just to give you just a little bit amount of taxes, and it has changed now. District 3 used to pay a lot of taxes before the redistricting. Some of the subdivisions now are in District 2, and some I think are in 4 now. But because of some of the subdivisions have been moved as of January 1, we went down just a little bit. So on the west side of Newton County, the amount of taxes that are paid to the school, into the county from District 2 is $10 million. For school for District 2 is $16.2 million, and that District 2 has 16,000 acres. District 3, we paid $10.9 million in taxes to the county, $18 million to the school system, and we have 17,000 acres. For District 4, they pay $8.8 million in county taxes, and school taxes is $14.2 with 16,000 acres. So the reason why I did that, I want to show you how much funding is coming from the west side of Newton County, especially District 3, an area with no recreation that's producing tax dollars. And so that has been my point. When I first got on this board, the first thing I said, this area on this side of town is producing a lot of taxes. Even our commercial taxes is like $300 million. So we're producing that amount of money in that area, and we can't even get a facility for our youth in the area it's supposed to be in. We can't get everything that we need. It's been a fuss and a fight and an argument for our kids. I'm going to say this. We're going to agree to disagree on this board. That's going to happen in politics. I was watching on YouTube recently of the worst board meetings in the United States of America, and it is no way comparison to Newton County. I'm here to tell you. We are saints compared to some of these board meetings I have seen. But they agree to disagree. We do not take it personal saying, I don't like what she did to me, so I'm not going to vote for anything else in her district. If that occurs from an elected official, they should not be sitting in this position. Because if it's something for the kids, if it's something for the seniors, if it's something for this area that's going to make this county great, I, Elena Sanders, would never vote against it, no matter what discrepancies we've had or issues that we've had in this county. If you ever hear an elected official say that to you, you need to question why they took the oath and they're sitting in this seat today. Thank you.
Commissioner Henderson. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Ms. C. You know, I've been on this board for a long time, and I would like to think, and at least when I first was elected, that, you know, that I made a difference, that I stood up and just did the very best I could for the people who elected me and for the people at large who were looking for some leadership. And I hoped that I had made that kind of impression. I never did thought that in my older years that I would be accused of stealing and had stolen down. But yet here I am. And I think it's a disservice to me and my family when you would put that out there, or people were allowed it to be put out there and know that I had did a thing. And so, but just be careful. Be careful what you do and what you say to other people, because you just might be digging a hole for yourself. Thank you.
Commissioner Cowan.
No, no.
Thank you, guys. I seek a motion that we adjourn, please. Can I get a second? It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Mason. All in favor?